All set?
All set.
All right. Welcome to the Hopkinton Select Board meeting of Monday, August 10th, 2026. In attendance tonight, we have Vicky Bram, Stephen Whitley, Alyssa McKeon, and myself, Steve Lux. And first order of business, points of pride.
I wanted to say thank you to the Boundtree ATV Club. After our conversations, I saw all their very visible, beautiful signage, and I appreciate the effort that they put into that.
Anyone else?
I'd love to give a thank you to Scott Clay and the Conservation Committee. I've noticed the turtle signs all over town, including on Crowell Road. And I appreciate the thought and effort they put into it and the communication, and it does match beautifully with what other towns are doing. So it is consistent as you're moving across the state, which is lovely. And then a thank you to the library who is hosting the meet and greet with the new principals of Harold Martin and Maple Street tomorrow on the patio.
I wanted to give a shout out to the folks who are working on the Georges Park bathrooms. I got a tour last week and it really looks fantastic. It's coming along very well. Something to be proud of. And the other thing I wanted to highlight was an email I got from a resident who commended staff for dealing, his words were that in spite of my stubbornness, staff is continuing to work hard to, work through the issue that this person has. And I just wanted to shout out to the community that when you recognize, we're just trying to do a good job. We're trying to get it done for you. We appreciate that you appreciate us. So
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Positive feedback is
we
appreciated.
love it. Yeah. And we're doing our best.
All right. Anything else? Good. All right. Moving along to the approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda for August 10th.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. All right. Has everyone had a chance to review the public meeting minutes of May 11th?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Ready? All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the select board public meeting minutes of May 11th, 2026.
Seconded.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Abstention. Perfect. Thank you. All right. First public appointment, Beverly. How are you?
This time.
Good. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chair and Select Board members. This evening, we are here seeking guidance on two new wastewater projects and a related waiver to Section 7 of the purchasing policy. So you do have a memo, I believe, in your packet. I'd like to just summarize that for you. Currently, as you know, the town is undertaking two wastewater projects, the septic lagoon closure, which is at the transfer station, and the sludge removal and lagoon cleaning, which is the wastewater treatment facility. These are separate and funded separately. One is with a CWSRF loan program and forgivable grant, and the other one is through a bond that the town that voters approved last year. As part of the sludge removal plan that was approved by NHDES in April, we were asked and it was recommended that we take a look at the condition of the aeration system and also the baffle curtain, two components of the lagoons.
I'm sorry, the aeration system and the what?
Baffle curtain.
Baffle
And
curtain.
I have a little explanation of what those are in your memo, but Dave is also here. I think can answer questions about what those are. But they are two elements of the two components of the lagoon. With the help of our consulting engineers, we've determined that the aerators are more than 30 years old, around 30 years old. And we also, after inspection, noted that the baffle curtain is torn along the shoreline, has some tears in it. We suspect there are more than just those tears. replacing the aeration system, we believe is going to be necessary as it's unlikely to withstand the rigors of the sludge removal. There's sludge caked around it. It is very old. They typically have, I believe, a 15 to 20-year life cycle. We are well beyond that. The total cost for the aeration system, including our professional services, is $108,000. And additionally, the drainage of lagoons, which is part of the sludge removal, presents an opportunity to get that done pretty efficiently. So we are recommending that we do move forward with that. It is also recommended by the consulting engineers that we simultaneously replace the baffle curtain, which is another pretty large cost. There is, both are unexpected, both add a substantial amount to the already, I think, 700 plus thousand, which is for the sludge removal. It's hard to make an argument for cost savings when presenting such a big ask, but there are cost savings in doing it now while the mobilization and setup and general conditions are all in place. It allows our existing contractor to work closely with service providers to get these two elements taken care of at the same time while we're getting the sludge cleaned out and drained. So these two projects, I think in total, and we have at the bottom of your, at the top of page 2, we kind of show the total costs for the aeration system and the baffle curtain replacement, which is $200,000 for the construction with materials and installation and engineering costs of $47,000. The baffle curtain could potentially be deferred, but we believe that would be an additional cost if it was deferred of $60,000. If it was deferred, we could adequately put it into the CIP, but there is some value to be achieved in terms of combining it under a single contract at this time. One mobilization, one setup, one general conditions, one contract. And there is some value to be associated also in professional services and combining it all together as part of this project. The total cost, as I mentioned, will be $247,000 for both of them, including professional services costs. I believe that the breakdown is $200,000 for materials installation with another $47,000, $392,000 for professional services. Staff is proposing utilizing CIP funding for the construction and installation, and the operating budget for the sewer operating budget for the professional services. So that is the first ask. Again, it could be separated. There's a cost associated with separating and deferring the baffle curtain to a later date, but they could be separated. We are looking for guidance about that. As you can see, there is some cost savings on in multiple places to just doing the whole project simultaneously. In addition to that, and this is what we will be seeking a motion for, is a waiver to the section 7 of the purchasing levels of the purchasing policy, which requires a competitive procurement process for projects of 20,000, 1 cent or greater. We have really worked with our consulting engineers to try and figure out the reasons and justification for that. Obviously, it's more than just convenience. What we have determined is that the sludge removal is directly related to the septic lagoon closure. We need to get that sludge to the septic lagoon. There was both of the project approvals were interconnected, that the septic lagoon could accept the sludge was part of their plan, and that they were going to dispose of it at the septic lagoon was part of the sludge removal plan. They are interconnected. It needs to get there before the winter conditions set in. So we are in a little bit of a time crunch to get that done. Once we fold in these two components, it's going to be important that we get those sort of two contractors underway to get that done in a timely manner as well. We must, as mentioned, we must commence the sludge removal before winter conditions begin. We're calling this as an accelerated approach. Because we are combining the two projects, we believe that we will save approximately $30,000 by, these are estimates that Hazen's estimating team has come together to provide us, by again, not having two separate contractors, two separate mobilizations, two separate general conditions, but to combine it under a single contract, get this done as part of the and I think 30,000 came from the engineering services. if they have to do a competitive bidding process, they need to do full plans and specifications, bidding documents, bid phase services, and separate construction contracts, which would be done at a later date, adding $30,000 to the professional services at a later date. And again, we'd have to redrain the lagoons to get this done at a later date. So we're asking for two things tonight, guidance and authorization to move forward. I think Karen can talk in more detail about the funding sources. It will be tight. She can explain how that's going to be sort of accounted for. And again, we need that waiver to meet some of the deadlines and move this process as quickly as possible. I'll be glad to answer your questions. Dave's here also to answer questions.
You talked about the age of the aeration system and how it's past its lifespan. Is that true for the baffle curtain also?
Yes. What's the balance of the capital reserve fund that you guys are thinking this would partly come from?
So the balance, I don't know exactly what the balance is at this moment. What we're talking about doing is we had planned on spending $150,000 this year for a screener, as well as $5,000 for an efficiency motor, miscellaneous equipment in the amount of $12,000. This is all was a planned expense from the CIP.
Yeah.
If we take that money plus the balance that would be left in that account,
Okay.
this does not account for any interest income. This is just kind of looking at what we were planning to spend. That would leave us $177,000 that we were planning to spend or planning to have as a reserve left over to use against this.
Okay.
So that would be for the actual construction and the parts and construction. As Beverly mentioned, the operating budget, we've identified approximately $45,000 if we really tighten our belt within the operating budget to within professional services to cover the professional services for this work.
Okay. And so the hope is that we can get this work done without any of these expenses hitting the tax rate.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
No new funding raised and appropriated for this.
we would have to do that at next year's town meeting because we're depleting this one,
Well, right,
essentially this
right,
one trust
right.
fund. So, yeah.
Yeah. And if we dip into the capital reserve fund, and obviously that work is going to be put off another year, what are the consequences of putting that work off an additional year?
The screener, I'm going to let Dave talk to that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Kind of held up on that one.
Sorry. Well, I mean,
We need professional services to continue to clean the wet well,
Right.
and the cost of the screener would more likely would go on.
Okay. Okay, but not doing the work for another year, other than the cost of the equipment itself going up, is not gonna hurt us in some other way.
Only with professional services, because right now we're hiring someone to clean that wet well.
Okay,
Because it's a
and,
confined space area.
okay,
were there any other reasons? Like I know we looked at a couple of different screeners and I'm not sure we'd found something that totally met our needs.
This would also, it all hinges on DES approval.
Okay.
what hinges on DES approval? Could you,
So,
okay, so even if we wanted to move forward with that this year, we'd still be waiting to make sure DES
yeah,
gave us the green light?
we're kind of late this year.
Okay, okay,
It's not going to happen this year.
Yeah. no.
okay, so putting aside this, okay.
Was the aerator already on the CIP?
No.
No.
Why not?
That's a great question. It was unanticipated. We found out in June with the report from DES that they had concerns about the ability of the aerator to survive the work, the sludge removal.
Sorry, you said June, but in Beverly's summary, she said April is when they asked us to look at it.
It's in the report.
So that's when July is when we heard about it at select board.
I have in here that they approved, I have it parenthetically approved in June 2026, so I got the plan approval, but it was sometime earlier in the spring where they said, I think this is what is explained to me by our consulting engineer, that they asked us, hey, we would like you to also take a look at this. I don't think it was on their radar. They were focused on the project at hand, which was sludge removal. And I don't think it was on anybody's understanding that it had not been replaced in 30 years. And so upon closer inspection, I think it became evident that it needs to be addressed.
I am mindful that in the memo, it said the act of doing the sludge removal would also destroy the aerator. And so that the engineers didn't bring that up earlier in the plan, that they're like, hey, by the way, while we're doing this, also budget for this other thing that we're gonna destroy.
I don't think they anticipated it, that, like Beverly just said, I think they were more focused on the constraints of just getting the sludge out of the lagoon.
And we have nothing in our engineering contract that protects us if they do a massive oversight that costs us 200K.
I think there's an underlying presumption on their part that that we're generally maintaining things, that things would not go 30 years, that need to be replaced every 15 years. I think there is not that.
So if we had replaced it every 15 years, the act of removing the sludge would not destroy the aerator.
It's hard to say, but
They explained to me that the age and condition, and also the fact that the septic lagoons have not been cleaned before. Is that a correct statement?
well,
Yeah.
they were cleaned back in 2005, 4. Because they had to upgrade the aeration system from the previous that was there, because that kept failing.
I mean, I'm frustrated that the engineers didn't catch this, because I think they should have, and we'd be in a better position planning for this, but we can't go backwards at this point. I feel like the cost savings that are hoped for by doing this all together in conjunction with the waiver makes sense to me. And if we have it in the capital reserve and the user fees to do that this year, then I for one am supportive of that, understanding that we're going to have to replenish that to some degree next year.
How long did it take us? And sorry to back up. Thank you so much for all the work you did putting the memo together. It was incredibly helpful. And what I'm trying to do is mentally get my ducks in a row. I echo what Stephen said. Ultimately, I agree with the policy waiver. I agree with needing to move forward with it. There's just a lot more information I want to have and to have on public record, so that when taxpayers are curious as to like how this happened and why it's happening and how are we not going to let it happen again, that we have it out there and we're not just making assumptions. And so with the depletion of the CIP, I'm unclear as to how long it took us to get it to the current level it's at and how long it would take us to get it back there, because the idea of asking the town for 200K to replenish that CIP next year does not feel super great in the current tax environment.
The ask for this particular trust fund for this year was 205K to cover this specifically. And that will be funded.
I'm sorry.
It was fund, which was to cover the screener and the other miscellaneous assorted things I mentioned.
Gotcha.
So we funded 200 this year, 205.
I see.
And we
Thank
would
you.
be spending a little bit more than that, because there would be $14,000 left over. We actually began the year with a deficit if we spent everything last year, but we finished up a couple of projects earlier this year. So diving too far into the weeds.
So as we drain the pools and sorry, forgive my like
Nope, got-
poor nomenclature, and then replace this equipment, is there anything else that will become visible that we might look at and say, oh, shoot, that's also corroded and nasty and needs to be replaced?
Well, there's a valving system and a piping system that surrounds the whole thing, and that directs it, as to which way it goes. Or I've continually said that the one thing that was over-engineered was the piping system that controls the lagoons, because now I can isolate either one of them. And ideally, it won't cause a disruption in service because I can isolate one, they can work on that, and then we can switch it to the other one. But within the lagoons itself, I mean,
Can I,
yeah,
what the consultants had told us, they basically said that the lining, that's the only thing they could be concerned about, that the lining, if they find that all the sand has been removed, that we could have to, there's a possibility to have to put more sand in, and there's a type of sand that goes in there.
yeah, it's kind of, it's a graded, I don't know how to describe how they grade it.
It's not playground sand.
No, it's kind of like a special sand, like when Dan buys for the road. It has to have a special
Grading. or
grade to
something.
it, yeah. But the only thing I can think of as far as the system goes, other than the piping, the valving that's there, which shouldn't be an issue. I mean, I've spent the last 2 years trying to get everything in that lagoon, the piping, the valves move. They haven't moved in a very long time. And the only thing I can think of is that the sand has somehow moved with the flow of the water through the lagoons, and exposed any of the liner. But that's part of the cleaning process. Is they'll go in and inspect it. I just had the dam inspection done about a month ago, which basically the guy comes in, he inspects the under drain that's around the lagoon system, looking for any, I don't know, basically tree roots, rodents, anything that would burrow into it, or any leakage from the lagoons. And we didn't find any. We walked through the woods almost all the way down to 89. So it was pretty extensive. So,
We asked that same question. We said they're gonna ask us,
Yeah.
what else might happen? And it was the lining that they brought up. They said the sand may be gone, you may have to put more sand. There is a remote possibility the lining could be torn. We won't
What's
know.
the cost on that?
They did not estimate. They said that the sand, I thought they saw that'd be nominal cost, but I think the lining might be, I don't really know. They did not give us a cost for that. So we're just gonna hope for the best on that one.
For the baffle curtain, how do they tear and what is their life expectancy?
the baffle curtain itself, if you can imagine, it hangs in there. The object of it is to create more retention time, so the solids will drop out and it makes the disinfection process more effective. Right now it has probably about 8 feet of sludge on one side of it, pushing up against it on the inlet side. There's only one curtain and it's only in one lagoon. So like I said, it helps create more retention time. There's actual screens, if you were to look at it, it's like little screen windows that are in the curtain. I'm not sure of the size, but it's designed, like I said, to hold back a certain size particle and let the rest of the water flow through. The only thing I can imagine is that it's been in there for a number of years, and when they start to pull on it, I can.
When we replaced it, what's the life expectancy of a new one?
I wouldn't go any more than 15 years.
And so as we head into budget season, we're working on the CIP, I assume the aerator, the baffle curtain, these are all things we'll work in. They're planning for them on a 15-year.
Yes,
Or whatever. Yeah, that's, yes.
good point.
Thank you.
I do want to add, this is a good opportunity to add that we have received a $98,000 grant to do an assessment of our vertical infrastructure. I think the hope is that, we don't know everything and how old everything is. We don't know what needs to be replaced. We're finding things out at an inopportune time and not able to plan for them. And you might expect that CWSRF, DES, they do not like to respond to emergency situations. They want you to have an asset management program. They've dedicated an additional $98,000 to help us do a complete assessment of our vertical infrastructure, integrate that into our CIP tool, and use that to inform future programming so that we do not have surprises. We don't have that right now. So we do occasionally have these surprises, and it's not great. It's not proactive planning. We're trying to move out of the red zone into the yellow zone, then into the green zone. I think getting us through the asset management program, have a fully operational asset management program. We now know what our collection system looks like. We will have that fully integrated into our asset management program. We will have priorities associated with that, looking at condition, likelihood of failure, consequence of failure. We'll have the same thing, hopefully within a couple of years, for our vertical assets, and we'll be able to plan proactively for these things. This is why they like to fund these programs. They also like to give you points for projects that emerge out of this type of a program. Dave and I worked pretty hard to make an argument that, some of our projects were already, we were already working on a vertical asset. They seem to kind of buy that argument, but they really want to see a fully developed program with everything inventoried, the condition assessed. We'll be working on that now that they've funded that program. Just that I'm hoping to avoid these uncomfortable situations and surprises as we move into that more proactive planning mode. We have not been there for 40 years, so it's going to take a minute to catch up.
We are with this final project. This is going to put us in a whole lot better position going forward. The condition assessment of the collection system, I was very surprised. I mean, a lot of it is in spectacular condition. There's some parts of it that need a little help, but it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be for a system that had never been cleaned or cambered or inspected. So
That's welcome news.
yeah, well, and I'm like I said, I'm in hopes that once we get past by the end of this year, if this sludge project goes smoothly and there was no big surprises from here on in, we should be in good shape as far as moving forward with the CIP projects and being able to plan ahead. I mean, I've pretty much rooted around in every part of the sewer system there is. And
So this is more of like a high level question, but like, how does the CIP integrate with an asset management plan that's like detailed, and the CIP is somewhat non-specific, right? I mean, like the assets, pipes and junctures and all this different stuff, we can't list those like in a CIP,
Yes, we can.
right? Okay.
we'll have with the vertical assessment, we'll have an inventory or a best guess inventory of everything that's in the ground or everything that we have. And I mean, based on some of the stuff that I found in the last 2.5 years, obviously, we have one assessment that says everything that the town owns is beyond its useful life. Well, not necessarily true. I mean, with the right maintenance, I could show you a wastewater plant that has 60-year-old equipment and it's still humming right along.
Sure.
And it all looks brand new. But the assessment program will allow us to be able to try to have a better prediction on, like Beverly was saying, the likelihood of failure, something that is beyond its useful life. If it's still operating fine, then, we don't need to plan for it next year. We definitely won't need to plan for it tomorrow. I mean, emergency stuff will still happen, but, it'll give us a better
And the
opportunity.
consequence of failure.
Yeah.
So things that go to the top, that if they break, it's a huge disaster, that will become a high priority.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Thank you. All right. So we have 2 decisions anyway. So we already know how you're feeling a little bit, right?
Yeah, no, I'm supportive of doing both projects this year and also granting the waiver. Yes.
So the waiver is is to bypass the
Purchasing policy.
to bypass the purchasing policy, but the competitive RFP
Yeah.
bid procedure, we are still getting 3 quotes.
I appreciate all your hard work. As Alyssa said, it's a very detailed memo, and it's going to help as we move forward and answer questions or present on next year's CIP and sort of explain the details of this particular story, but coupling it with the dredging sounds appropriate to me.
Any other thoughts? Okay. Do we need to formally vote?
If you, on the backside of your agenda, there are a couple of motions.
You want to read it?
Sure.
Hold on to-
So it's your reading. I move to authorize the town administrator. Nope.
It's not-
Nope.
Wrong one.
No.
Haven't gotten there yet.
Out of order.
Okay. So just this move to waive the requirements of section 7, this one? Okay, I move to waive the requirements of section 7 purchase levels of the town's purchasing policy, which requires a request for proposal and bid procedure for purchases of $20,000, $20,001 or greater.
Second,
Right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
do we need a vote on combining the projects for this year?
Oh, think so. I think you can just, I mean, it sounds like you're all in agreement that that's the best path forward.
Okay.
Sorry to get the fund, right? So.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, also for Benzoin.
Also,
Northern Borders grant application.
You don't have to stay with some people. So we're here tonight seeking authorization and guidance on an application to the Northern Borders Regional Commission for the purpose of a catalyst grant. The Northern Borders Regional Commission purpose is it's essentially a partnership between the federal government and the states of Maine, New Hampshire, New York, and Vermont. The purpose of the program is to stimulate community vitality and economic development within the communities that are partners. I first looked at this, it's brought to my attention by Regional Planning Commission, looking for money for infrastructure. I was looking really for money for the alternatives assessment for the pump station, which I've applied for twice through CWRF, which is, it's on Senator Shaheen's list right now, whether or not it comes out of CDS. We've been on that list before. But let's see if it comes out and gets congressionally directed spending, but I'm still looking for money for that. And I was approached this with that in my mind. Also thinking to myself, there could be some funding for the Main Street, Maple Street sidewalk improvements that were the subject of a TAP grant, an unfunded TAP grant submitted 2 years ago by our Economic Development Director. So I first brought these two projects. They gave me some guidance about this. As like all projects, when you first get to know a new funding source, the scope changes depending on what the purpose and the scoring criteria are of the agency that you're working with. Preliminary feedback, they said, well, we'd like to see a more combined project that includes community visioning. Do you have a good vision plan for this Cook area that includes mobility improvements? Initial feedback seemed to think we could incorporate all 3 projects. Subsequent feedback says, well, we just think it's too many. We maybe just the the visioning, maybe the mobility improvements. I met with our former Economic Development Director, Ann Wells, and there was a big emphasis from our initial meetings about the state fair being a very important component to our vitality of that area and big economic development opportunity for the community. And after speaking to Anna, she said, what about Park Avenue improvements? There is some sidewalk challenges there, lack of crosswalk. I actually drove it last week and with Karen Robertson, sidewalk on one side. It's very, I think it's probably 3 feet, 3.5 feet. It is in not the best condition, no curbing. It's on one side without a crosswalk, and then it picks up on the other side. And then I believe people cross through the parking lot of the school to get to the main entrance. So I did said, well, I'm going to propose that to select board. And then on Friday, after the memo was in, I received additional feedback saying, we're not sure we want you to combine both those projects. We think maybe we like to, maybe just the visioning. I have a meeting with the Northern Borders Regional Commission staff on Wednesday. They have office hours. They've agreed to meet with me to talk about this combined project. I suspect they might ask that I separate the project. And I would like to just check in, recognizing that I do think my instinct at this point is that the the visioning for Kentucky Village, which would include mobility and sidewalk improvements, a market study, and I've integrated into that something that is, I think, important to our Economic Development Committee, which is the Riverway Park sort of a visioning process for that. That I think that's going to be the stronger of the two. If they let me combine it, I think I could put in for both, but I'm really looking for guidance about what your priorities are. The budget I have right now, and I cut some corners here and there to keep it at 100, because we're only eligible 50% at I think 108 for the town, 100 for the regional commission. I think they're going to like the visioning part the most. If they say both, it's still, I can get guidance from you tonight to just say, well, we'd like to just do big visioning exercise, bring that cost down for now, see what comes out of that before we go ahead and look for preliminary engineering on any project. So I'm looking for guidance from you. I think there is this in your memo, on the second page, there are some estimated costs. I think I have 108 for the town. If we just did visioning, it would probably come down, substantially. I put 10,000 for the market study, but I had some online estimates that put it closer to 30,000. I think maybe 20,000 is probably 25,000 is probably more accurate. I drove it down to kind of keep those numbers manageable. So I guess I'm looking, what is your priority for this project? My feeling is that the visioning is the most competitive and probably the most bang for the buck for the town at this moment. They have 2 funding sessions a year, so it is possible that we can, once we have that underway, whatever comes out of that could be something we apply for in subsequent rounds. If you'd like me to, if they do agree to both projects, that maybe you still don't want both projects, maybe you just want the visioning. So I'm just looking for what your initial impressions are, or if you want to submit a grant at all, because that's what I'm here tonight asking. Because there is, and I did ask them, well, what if we can't fund this, until we get our CI pre-approved in the next budget? They said, this is fine. You can get it as long as you, state to us that it's going to be placed before the voters. We're fine with that. So it's really, I'm asking for your guidance about this particular application.
If we did a visioning grant, is there then the ability to get a grant to actually do the work?
I think it actually makes that grant stronger, but it has to, of course, have a really good direct tie to economic development. They love to see
There is a possibility of then, because here's my mind when I was reading through this ahead of time, and your memos are delightful. Like, I deeply enjoy how thorough they are and how prepared they make me feel coming in to talk to you about the thing you've researched. And I was like, this would excite me so much if I feel like I haven't seen so many consultancy projects come through the town, come up with an idea, a plan, hold stakeholder meetings, put together reports, and then the thing never happens because the thing itself is too expensive. I mean, in some cases, people came to us and said, I want to do this project and I'm going to present it to you, knowing full well, like, we can probably never make this. I think about the roundabout, not the roundabout, but I think about the intersection in front of the fire station, for instance, that would cost millions of dollars to redo. I think about what happened with Kentucky Village getting pulled out, from underneath us. And I think about how the state has not been a partner in fixing our sidewalks leading up to our schools. And so I'm just having a hard time feeling optimistic that if we spent $100K of taxpayer dollars and got a visioning plan, that then there would actually be further change that would happen after that. Because where would the money come from? Would the state even let us change the sidewalks where we intersect with routes? So I just have concerns that we would spend this money at the same time that we're saying we have to spend an additional $200K on the sewer CIP unexpectedly for an idea that I wholeheartedly support and want to happen and want to see, but just have so much doubt in my heart that we will actually see the work, like shovel ever meet ground on a project that we come up. So I'm wondering, can anyone knock this pessimism out of me and tell me that there is an actual possibility that if we do this project, that there would be something in
Maple
the end?
Street sidewalk has been on the plate for some time now. And I actually had engineered plans that the state denied. to fix Maple Street sidewalk.
See, that's where I get pessimistic, cause
Yeah.
I'm like,
But here's the deal, everyone told me to go through TAP, all this stuff, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, okay, so I did that, and we're still here at this point. I just need a plan that the state will approve, and I will build it myself. And it might take me 2, maybe 3 years to do it in sections, I'll get it done. I use money out of my budget and get it done, I'm not looking for a grant, I just want the sidewalk fixed, so when my guy's out there snow blowing, and he doesn't fall off the sidewalk and end up in the state road. That's what I'm looking for.
I want that for him too. Like, I guess like my concern is here you are, an incredibly capable person who already has a plan, who has a plan for a budget, who has a plan to get it done, who's being denied the ability to do it. And so if we do this visioning plan on this other side of the village that still intersects with state roads, will the state say yes to us, even if we can find the funding and the people power for it, or will they have done all of this just to be known by the state again?
If I could speak to that just briefly, I did support the TAP application, and we did reference a plan that was 20 years old. There was a charrette done 20 years ago. This is not the strongest, most compelling sort of community participation that happened 20 years ago. It certainly did not help our application to not have a current vision. I'm not saying that's would have made the difference between funding and not funding. The mobility improvements that could come out of visioning may not be as, so I think part of the problem is that when you have a good plan, and most of you know that I'm a planner and have been a planner for a long time, that a good plan has scalable projects. It has aspirational projects that you might seek funding for, and that might be a bigger capital project. It also has other projects that can slowly move the dial, smaller projects, and it does create a unified vision that we can get behind and fund pieces of. Some things will be aspirational and hard to reach, or bigger projects that we apply for bigger funding, maybe through Northern Borders for. Other projects might be smaller, might be benches, landscaping. One thing that I hope to get out of it, because I did have to take out the alternatives assessment for the pump station, is this is right in a very critical location for the community, but yet we don't have really any good screening or any sense of like how this can be more integrated into a larger community plan. And it's in such a sensitive location. And I correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but I do feel like that was one of the questions raised by NHDES, was the sensitivity of the location of this
Yeah,
in terms of the
No,
preliminary project review. So
there's a lot of questions for that. Odor control. How often are we gonna go down, and the screening machine basically would pull all the debris out of the sewer wet well. How's it gonna be collected? How often is it gonna be collected? Vector attraction, I sat down with Dan and we went through every bit of that and how we would mitigate it all, and we'd submit it to the state, and they just kicked it right back saying, I've told them 3 times we're gonna put up a fence, there won't be any public access. No, it's like so how are you gonna keep the public out? They keep coming back with the same thing, like they didn't even read it. So
I'm not saying this is going to solve that, but it would certainly at least give some consideration to that feature that's in the park, and have some, potential ideas for screening and buffering that. So to tell you that this is going to unlock loads of money, because there's not loads of money out there, but as it'll help, I think, target limited funds towards things that are community supported, and sort of like our asset management plan, inform CIP investments going forward. If there is a section of sidewalk, are you saying that the plans have not been approved by the state, or that you were told to wait for the grant?
No, they were not approved.
So if
They
we,
wanted us to plow from the shop road down to this.
so
Accept that.
if we can ever get to a point where we might fund a section at a time based on, and it may be that other mobility improvements come out of that, because we are looking to improve overall circulation between the downtown, and they love the state fair, trying to figure how we can improve connectivity there and circulation in the downtown. I don't know what's going to come out of it, but my hope is that a good plan will have scalable projects, from small projects that can be done by staff to larger projects that are more aspirational and require additional funding. A lot of times they can also help you find funding sources. It's a tough go. We are Northern Borders likes, they consider you rural if you're less than 5,000, so we just missed that. We get extra points for that. But yet we're not big enough to have a lot of the census data information that is highly fundable by, we're not an entitlement city through HUD. And it's a tough go to try and get that funding as well. So we are, it's a tough go to get funding for Hopkinton, but this at least gives us an updated plan to work with. So it's really up to the select board. We don't have to apply. We can wait till the fall and research this further. I'm looking for guidance from you on this one.
Remind me, Beverly, if we were to take out the Park Street portion of it, what is that reduces the overall ask from 208 to, we're taking out the 160. I mean, it takes out the town's portion of the commitment, reduces it significantly.
I might up that a little bit if we took that out just to get that reasonable market study in there, maybe by an extra 15,000 something, but yeah.
And I hear you loud and clear about like, it's not guaranteeing funding, but it gives us a much better, a solid foundation from which to apply for funding. And I think if I were to ignore funding for a hot second, my concern is that it doesn't matter what plan we come up with, the state won't let us do anything in our own village.
Mhm.
And so I'm wondering about the futility of it. Like
That's fair.
let's say that we could get all the money, and I think I'd want to know more about what does it take to get the state to say yes to something, because here's something with our sidewalks where we're not asking to do anything, we're not asking them to pay for anything. We just want them to give us the go-ahead so that we can go ahead and work on it, and this feels like a really simple project. It's not trying to change the layout of anything, it's not even trying to, and so I'm struggling with, even if we can put this plan, the way that the routes intersect in Kentucky Village really ties our hands. And I'm wondering, do we get ourselves all excited and spend this money? And even if we could find more money to do the projects, will we ever even be allowed to do the projects? So like, what are we setting ourselves up for? My own personal priority, that aside, like, let's say we're like, actually, we can find approval and there actually is a way to work with the state and we can get them to let us do things in our own village. Yay. And we can incrementally do these things. My own personal opinion would be, and maybe I'm short-sighted as a select board member and as a business owner, but I am so much more concerned with the circulation of our schools into our village than I am about the state. I get that maybe we'd see an incremental boost as businesses, but I am so much more concerned with the daily walking and pedestrian pattern of our children of the town than I am. No offense, visitors. I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming to Hopkinton to see our beautiful village and town. But I'm so much more concerned about our kids than I am about our visitors who are going to the fair and the way they are moving through from the high school into the village and from Maple Street into the village.
Yeah.
So, and again, I might be short-sighted, but I'm like, I want to take care of the people who live here first before I worry about our visitors. Though I want you to come visit. You're great. We love you guys.
But couldn't visioning also include that? Couldn't
100%. I was just like, if we're like going to emphasize something, it would be about the way in which our community is able to engage with our community. The fact that we are supposed to be a rural walkable village that happens to have two very busy routes that cross right through it. And so how do we make it so that the youngest and those least likely to be driving among us can easily access the wonderfulness that is the village and the Riverway and everything happening down there? That's just me. I don't know what these guys are thinking.
I think those are valid comments.
So Dan, did we expend money on those Maple Street plans? And they just got sort of kicked back. So
There's
do you,
two catch basins that they did not like because they had to be indented with curbing. They said they would ice up, and I said, well, we'll make an agreement where we maintain those.
yeah,
Wow, I was just trying to be safe because it's been very dangerous for my guys snowblow that. They've been hit with snow from the state trucks. We'll go clean the sidewalks, and next thing you know, they're putting snow back in them. I mean, there's black pavement and they're just winging it back just a little bit more. And so putting a curb in would stop that. They can only go to the curb and that would be it. We could clean it up and be done. So it's a time factor there and the safety factor. So if you go down Maple Street, the bankings are about that high from the state road. So if he slips off, and it's come close before where someone came along and actually held the machine up till we could get there and help him get it back up on. So if he tips over, that thing's gonna be upside down in state road. So. And they just said, no, we're not supporting this. You know, you'll say you'll do this agreement, but your guy coming in behind you might not do it. Well, that's why we'll have an agreement that we will clean it out. And then they said, well, if you plow from up here down the village, then we'll do it. No, not plowing state roads. It's a whole nother liability and everything else. That's where it ended.
Understood. So even if we had fresh engineering or,
If you need the state to approve an engineering plan, and I was not gonna expend any more money to make that happen.
right, and we don't want to sell our souls for eternity either.
Right. So which is why we went through when Anno said go through the TAC and everything else, because that's supposed to go that avenue, so I did, and we're probably 10 years into this and it's still not. Whereas Kearsarge Ave, we had Safe Routes to School and all this, and it wasn't happening, and when I rebuilt Kearsarge, I just put the sidewalk in. Safe Routes to School was 200 and something thousand to build that stretch of sidewalk, and I did it for 50.
What's our obligation if we go forward with this application? Do we have any at this point?
I don't believe, this is sort of, it's a preliminary application that's followed by an application. So I believe the application is the binding component and they invite you to submit your application. So we're really haven't done this one before. If it works like NHDS, it is really with the application that comes the binding components that they expect you to fulfill. I think right now it's like I could be wrong, but I think it's more like an interest letter. It doesn't. Yeah, it's just trying to figure out this project if they have an interest in it. They're not looking for a motion and they're not really asking me for verification of funding source. At least I didn't see that in the application.
Okay.
So if I did find that out, I'd have to come back to you and I don't have time to do that. So.
But at this stage, or no, let me say it differently. So if we did this pre-application, you expect that we would get some feedback as to whether they would consider this as a complete project or if they would pick one or the other.
On Wednesday, they were going to ask me if, on Wednesday, they're going to tell me whether they'd consider as there's these two projects, which are, and I feel like I just kind of am surprising this, hey, how about Park Street, Park Avenue, but if they would, it's because they had such emphasis on State Fair, that if they consider this as have enough synergy in this project to consider both pieces. But my initial feedback from one of the consultant that works with them and our regional planning commission was that they are going to just want to see the visioning first as a separate project. And they discourage two applications from the same jurisdiction.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm getting. I think that's where we're going to land. So it really is, if they say, yeah, go ahead and do it. I just wasn't sure that that's what the select board wants. And it sounds to me like that preliminary engineering could be for naught if we're not going to get any state support for a project that is in their right of way. I don't know. I mean, I haven't tested these yet. And it's a valid concern that you raise that it's hard to know what mobility improvements will actually be supported by the state. I really cannot say, given the confluence of so many state roads into one critical location for the town.
May I ask a very silly question of folks that have lived in town far longer than me? I could have sworn there was access to the fairgrounds from the school parking lot.
There is.
There is. I think the focus here was as you drive up Park Avenue and get just past the high school, the sidewalk ends on the right side and it resumes on the left side with no crosswalk. I think
Sorry,
that was
it's just because in the memo, the component. So that's why I was just making sure I hadn't lost my mind. Cause I'm like, I could have sworn I've walked from, but who knows if I have or not. So a pedestrian path to access the fairgrounds from the middle high school parking lot. And so the idea would be just make sure I'm understanding, not just the direct access from the parking lot, but also a roundabout access. on
Well,
Park
I
Ave.
don't think we could get, so we could try and create, I mean, Karen and I looked at it, we just looked at the aerial, but we're trying to figure, is there room for like a pathway? Not across the parking lot, which I think is what people are probably doing, but really along the property line to create, as people walk up the road, presuming they walk up Park Avenue to get there, then they enter the middle high school parking lot, that there's potentially room for just a pedestrian path there.
I see.
Yeah, so because I think what's probably happening is people are just crossing that parking lot. Because at first I thought they had to go all the way down because there's a connection there on parking. And she goes, no, nobody does that. They don't have an entrance there. They have to go through the high school parking lot. So I was like, okay, well, that shortens the project.
That makes more sense. The way I had read it was a little bit different. And I was like, did I just walk through bushes when I went from the parking lot to the fairground? And I just don't remember doing that. Like, okay.
You walk across the parking lot.
So if right now it's a preliminary, non-binding part of the process. And if we feel relatively assured that the state will stymie us from making changes to the main arteries. Would we be in favor of at least putting our hat in the ring for partial funding of a visioning process? If in the meantime, we are able to kind of solidify what the benefits of that process would be. And then if we actually are, if we're allowed to continue to the next step of the process, maybe having more solid idea of what that could lead to or what funding doors it could open, would be beneficial for then committing to spend money on it. Yeah, sorry, it's long, drawn out. Dan, is it okay to say that we feel relatively certain of not getting warm approvals on changing those sidewalks on Park Avenue as well as on Maple
Park
Street? Okay,
I can- That's two of the issues I've had on Maple Street.
okay, so you would, yeah, and so you wouldn't want to hazard a guess either way, because it's a different project.
Different drainage. I mean, the drainage is very close on Maple Street to the sidewalk. Park Ave is pretty flat and easy, so they might be okay with that. I don't.
I mean, it seems like making a solid sidewalk on Park Avenue is a worthy endeavor, does increase the potential for economic development downtown. But I hear what you're saying, Beverly, that coupling the visioning and the engineering costs maybe weakens our overall ask. So I guess you could persuade me to go either way. If you think that there's a chance that they would fund the engineering plans for Park Avenue.
I mean, I'll find out Wednesday. But it's a bigger, and I think, yeah, it's a bigger question. I have a feeling that it's not gonna go that way just based on something that one of the consultants told me.
Okay.
And that they already had raised a flag about, we're not, for first feedback, I mean, you can email them and they said, well, set up some office hours with us, but right now we'd like to see separated two projects. So my feeling is that he's going to reiterate that when I meet with him
Okay.
on Wednesday virtually.
Sure.
In which case it would probably just be, they'd want to see the visioning. We could include conceptual mobility improvements and see how far we can get with that. I would ask that we would up the market study to 25 instead of 10. If we take out, and then the total project cost of 75 minus the 12 in kind, which would bring it to 63, which would be a total commitment from the town at 32 approximately.
Right.
Would be my recommendation if we decided to go that direction. If they do require something greater of a commitment, then I have not seen that anywhere. I just logged into the government application today. I did not see that. It's just a lot of narratives. And I even asked them about, well, we probably won't have anything until we get through town meeting. They're like, oh, that's okay. So that kind of made me think they were a little bit okay with the process as it is. But if I find out differently, then I would probably come back to you in the fall. But this is what if I can get it through, I would ask that you either prove what is before you, but it sounds like, or potentially a much reduced price of approximately 60 well, 75 minus the in-kind, which would be about a $33,000 match requirement.
And so knowing that we won't see Beverly again before the pre-application is done,
I
and
have to do it this
therefore,
week, yeah.
if she
There's not much time.
can only do one, she wants to know which one. I'm in favor of the vision plan for a pre-application and a continued conversation here at the board before putting in a full application to understand further what doors it could open, what possibility there is to working with the state before we go forward and ask the town for approximately $30,000 to make sure it's not an exercise that doesn't ultimately
Yep.
lead to another wonderful plan that then we can't do anything about. Because those just make me sad now.
I mean,
I-
we'll,
I-
I'm sorry.
I would agree with you. I think that that's a sensible approach, given our track record with these grants. And I wish it were otherwise, but, yeah, I think for now, that's a good position to be in, and we'll just wait and see what we learn after we do the pre-application.
We also didn't have a Beverly back then, so I want to name
True.
that. There wasn't a Beverly here. There is one now, so.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. And also, the Economic Development Committee and the downtown subcommittee or whatever, I mean, it would, I'm not sure that this is what that is, but it would make sense that if we want them to come up with results, that we might need to put some money toward it.
Yes.
Yeah. I would say I'd feel the same, as everyone else here. So, so does this, you said the pre-application doesn't really need,
Yeah, it's too many.
does it need a full motion from us?
I didn't get the impression, but I'm asking for motion anyway, and it's on the back of your agenda it's the one that was, I think, initially, it's the first one.
Yeah.
And that, didn't put a number value on that, but I think what we have, agreed is a project value of not to exceed 75 with 12,000 in kind, which I calculated based on, mine or whomever you hire at some point to be manage economic development, Karen Robertson, and of course, our town administrator rates. I originally had 30,000 and I thought, seems a little much. So I went back and it actually was quite a bit much. So 2,000 I got from volunteer hours. And I haven't really done the full exercise of looking at, there's a federal website of how you calculate volunteer
Okay.
hours. So I
Yeah.
just have not gotten there.
Okay, right. So you mean like these numbers might look a little different when we do our pre-application because you're gonna double check that
Yes.
2,000
I'm
figure.
gonna try to, I think the 10,000 a little more solid, because I did a back of the envelope based on hours for me and Karen and the other Karen. But I think they're in the ballpark, but if I just get we are supportive of an application that does not exceed a town cash match commitment of more than 30,000 or 32,000, that is just verbally articulated to me, but I think the motion is stated more broadly. Because I don't want to put a specific number, because what if it's,
$5 more.
well, I guess if we were to, you could put a number value now that we've decided on, I'll leave that up to you.
I'll read it.
All right.
I'm gonna move to authorize the town administrator to submit a grant application to the Northern Borders Regional Commission for the purpose of economic development initiatives to include the Kentucky Village Vision Plan and Market Study.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Very much.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan.
Moving right along, fair parking raffle
So
alternates.
we're gonna draw a couple more. We had, our Thursday person, unable to get enough volunteers to participate, so we need to draw another.
I wasn't here.
Oh,
She
you should
wasn't here, so
totally,
she
totally do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
just one,
Just one, please.
just pick one.
Just pick one.
Okay. I'm gonna do it behind my computer. There's not very many in here.
No, there's only three. I had to whittle out who had already been selected and those who were available on Thursday night, so
I feel bad for the other ones that I pick up. It's 9.
9 is the high school football team.
Nice,
Jim.
brilliant.
Can we grab a second
Oh, just in
Just in case.
case?
No, then it wouldn't, yeah, no, we don't know what night it would be. Let's not.
Okay,
Sure,
Yeah, well,
that's fine.
we're here.
I'd have to add back in people who were
Oh.
available during other nights of the week to, like, if all
Okay.
of a sudden, Saturday backed out, then that would.
Gotta put the
so
Saturdays back.
I think we will, just stop here. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Town administrator updates.
Dates for you. The Fair Pilot, the signed completed Fair Pilot has been returned. Yay.
Whoa.
Thank you guys for your hard work, making that happen. What else is on my list? Did you see my email about the transfer station monitoring weekends?
Yes.
Did you change the spreadsheet to be editable?
Oh,
I
Is it
replied
not-
back to you, or I put a comment in there or something. I was
Oh.
unable to type into it.
I didn't see anything. So, okay, I checked a couple times. I will fix that.
Has no one put anything in there yet? Y'all, I'm keeping you to go back to
Wasn't-
check to see if it was.
I hear
Yeah,
it
but-
wasn't editable.
Yeah, but no one was backing me up on this. Was all I needed.
No one had signed up.
Look,
which
I'm
because
ready
no
with
one
my
had edited.
hands.
I kept trying to like, y'all.
Okay, we will fix that.
Did look.
Were you waiting to see so you could pick the right part?
It's just like, Am I gonna be the first person to write my name out? I don't wanna be.
That's where you do it at like 4 AM, like slam right through that.
That was my excuse.
Beyond that, we've got, Beach Hill, that is another pilot. Met with them last week, had a really great meeting, talked about a bunch of different things. So we're gonna probably start, with a visit from the assessor there, just to double check the assessment of the property. The director there felt like it was a little high. So, we want to start there, and they would like to, I think that the reval number that happened, was sort of sticker shock, because that drove their tax payment way up, and they are not thinking that that is what they should be contributing. And again, the library came up, library costs. So we threw a whole bunch of stuff on the table, had a really good meeting, and we'll go get the assessment checked out and then kind of regroup and then pull you guys in a little bit later on. But
Okay.
yeah, it was real positive. Also looking, I haven't made contact yet with NFI, but that's another one that is in need of attention. So we're chipping away through these pilots.
Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. So one of the questions from our last, I think it was our last meeting, was how did 2 New Hampshire towns form a committee?
Yeah.
And I got a great answer this morning from Christine Johnson. She said, well, it depends on what you want to do.
Bonnie, this is your thing she's talking about.
I just started, so
Yeah.
Two municipalities.
forming a committee.
We got feedback on it.
Yeah.
So if the committee will be delegated enforceable decision-making authority over the transfer station and its operations and staff with managerial and administrative authority, or will be handling money or acting independently of the select boards, it would be more formal to create an intergovernmental agreement. Otherwise, she said, if you're just looking at issues and gathering information to make recommendations and advise the 2 select boards, it's a much more informal thing. So the boards have the authority to generate any kind of committee they want, and 2 boards can certainly do that jointly.
Great.
Decide on what the purpose of the committee is, how many members, how members will be chosen, how long their terms will be, and what the committee's specific duties are, et cetera. All of this should be, memorialized somewhere. And then the 2 boards just agree to that and start moving forward. So I don't know, I didn't ask the question, we have an existing committee, how do we incorporate? But I think, I think we're at a place where we're gonna stop and step back and sort of look at things with fresh eyes anyway, so. Makes sense. Mhm. From New Hampshire Municipal, yep. But she was very positive, like, yeah, absolutely, it's not this big whole complicated thing, so.
That's good.
Basically, we kind of go through the process, and I would suggest that maybe with, the committee, the existing committee, this fall, we sort of identify, and revamp this and present it to Webster, and I think they'll be totally on board. It sounded like they were
Yeah,
in favor of it when we met with them.
so do we need to clarify whether or not that the Hopkinton one should be shuttered and then a brand new one, or if we could just amend it to include both towns,
I
or
think you could probably go either way.
so we don't need to
It's really-
clarify that with her, or do we need to clarify that? with
the
her?
way it was, she said two towns can just come together and work together. I mean, we can shutter the other one and then we can rename it with a new mission and a new,
Yep,
purpose and new members.
The old one may already be shuttered because of when we revised the, I'm forgetting the name. But when we went to town meeting and revised the,
Hopkinton Webster Refuse Disposal.
that's the one I'm thinking of. I think when we amended, yeah, that's gone already. And so I don't think we need to do anything to get rid of that old committee. It's just we need to decide what the scope is for this new joint committee with Webster,
But we do have a waste reduction committee.
which
correct?
is separate, right?
Separate from.
No,
The Hopkinton Refuse
Right.
Disposal Committee, the old disbanded,
Right.
yeah.
well, the context, just as a quick reminder, is that there is a member of Webster who has been attending the meetings and would like to be, and Bonnie and the rest of the committee would like this person to be a voting member and a participant. And so their request was like,
Oh,
they just
got it.
join. And so I don't think this is necessarily
Current
about.
iteration of the waste reduction.
Correct. This is
Got
the current iteration, and I'm of the opinion that we don't have to go through the rigmarole of like officially shutting down the committee, and like Bonnie with Sabrina and the rest of the committee have already started engaging in a process to update the charge. And I think we fold this into that as opposed to going through.
And maybe solicit input from whoever in Webster is interested. Include that person and they can report back to their select board as to sort of how this is evolving.
With that refresh, I totally agree. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I have, we had volunteers step up to fill our vacant cemetery position. I have minutes from the cemetery meeting last week to recommend Dawn Berry. And I have an appointment of form if you are interested in signing her appointment to the remainder of it was Kelly Lewis's position. She resigned, I think, in May.
Is Dawn stepping back from any of her other committees?
Nope.
That's great news. Okay.
Yeah, no, I asked her about that and she said, no, she feels she really would like to be part of the cemeteries. She said, I've already been out there doing, whatever she's been doing as a volunteer.
We
So,
appreciate
yeah.
her dedication to the town
Yep.
and all the work that she is doing at
Um,
her various committees.
Unless someone has an objection, I'm gonna move to appoint her. Let's see any objections. Absolutely.
Oh, second.
Okay.
I'm here, present.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead with your motion.
I did already.
Oh, all those in favor?
That's the way it works. Yes, yeah.
So informally.
Hey, I'm trying to make this quick.
Okay.
All right, those in favor of appointing Dawn Berry to the vacant cemetery trustee position, say aye. Thank you.
Yes, not reading my mind very well.
I have another one that's a little bit more confusing. I noticed on the Human Services Advisory Committee page on the website that Nan McNicholas, her term expired in 2025. So I went digging for paperwork and I don't see where she was ever reappointed.
okay,
So I created an appointment form for her she should have been appointed last year, but because we're signing it this year, I created a form that is a 2-year appointment. So it basically.
And we're confirming that she's still active on the,
Absolutely, yeah. This was that. And she said, oh yeah, no, she's still here active. And
fantastic.
so that's just a little paperwork cleanup.
do you want me to make a motion? Okay, I'm gonna move to reappoint Nan McNicholas to the Human Services Advisory Committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
think that's transfer station. Yeah, that's all I had.
Great. Thank you. All right, moving along, horseshoe survey.
We have been working on this for a bit. And this was, I think, presented at the last meeting as the current iteration of our horseshoe survey. And we were going to talk about it a little bit tonight. I highly recommend that we and Beverly's that's right, it's coming back now. We asked for input from the board. Beverly put the input from the board into a neat little matrix. And sort of need to mash together how we want to do, or what we want to implement from that.
I have some feedback, which is that I like the way Steve Lux simplified the questions regarding our choices. With like a little subtitle, creative display, simple protective structure, sign only, storage only, disposal. It just, sort of frames it for people who haven't been having this conversation for as long as we've been having it. So I think we should revise number 4 to integrate some of his simplification of the language.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
I would say the same for Steve's suggestion for question 5 as well.
Yes, and Stephen, you made a point about public funds could be misconstrued as grants or something else. And so I'm mindful that in your proposed language about raising and appropriating, it's important to note that public funds means your money.
But we could use taxpayer funds instead of public funds. That might
That'd be
Yep.
great.
emphasize that a little more. So that was for question 5, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Anyone have any objections to Sabrina's recommendation for the first intro change?
No, I have no objection.
And the second,
Nope.
Yeah, I'm
Objection.
fine.
Um. I need to go back and read the intro so that I can understand Byron's suggested addendum to the intro.
I don't have an issue with Byron's additional language for the intro.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so we're the green line of Byron and Louise's suggestions.
Mhm.
We're in favor of. Really appreciate Beverly's work on all
Yeah.
this stuff. She did a really nice job summarizing the history of the horseshoes in just a couple sentences.
Did we want to go back and look at the rest of Sabrina's, or are we
Yes.
past
think
those?
we're-
Okay, because
We're still doing that, I think.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then question 2. I support the change. The specificity of what we are talking about is important.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Um,
Question 3, I don't, I would hesitate because Sabrina's change included with she used the word large, and I don't think
Right.
we've come to any sort of agreement on what a structure would truly be if it were to be built yet.
I also think that her other additional language is going to be addressed by some revisions we're about to get to.
Right.
So leave 3.
I think 3 should stay as is from what Sabrina suggested. I also think that the way that Steve reworded some of the number 4 options also addresses a sign only already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a repeat question.
Yeah.
So Sabrina's proposed new question 4, and question 5, are we saying would be a repeat after agreeing with Steve's redoing of question 4 answers?
I've only gotten to new question 4.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I think you're right, Melissa. Now that I read it, I think you're right. I think all of this is going to be addressed.
Looks, I think she was trying to take 4 and break it apart.
Yeah,
So it was like
right.
digestible to try to dig down.
Yeah.
I do think the simpler rewording.
Kind of took care of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
I do like new question 7 and or some variation of it because it addresses the fact that they will exist after they are built. And
Yes.
what is people's preference for,
Yeah. Future costs and everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think de minimis is a little too esoteric of a term for a public survey.
I do, yes, I was gonna say, I like the essence of it. I don't know how to simplify the language, but a slightly simpler.
Minimal.
Minimal, that's a great word, minimal, thank you.
I like de minimis better.
Only attorneys use that.
I thought it was a typo at first. I'm like, what am I looking at? Oh,
Yeah.
Is it Latin? Like what?
it must be.
And so 5, her changes to 5 we've already addressed.
I think so, yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
just
new
making
question
notes.
4 and 5.
But we're good with new question 7.
I appreciate, again, Beverly, like helping us when we have so many
Digest it,
cooks
yeah.
in the kitchen, yeah.
New question 7 with the change from de minimis to minimum.
And then we already said yay to Byron and Louisa's. And their question 4 is now also null and void with the rewording.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yes, I agree. Oh,
yeah.
oops.
And then, Stephen, do you feel like with the adjustments above,
Hold on, I just lost my thing. There it is. Okay, I'm sorry. What was your question?
for yours, you have new question, please indicate your level of support, hand raising and appropriating money. Would you still want to have that in there?
I mean, I think so, unless you guys feel strongly otherwise, because I feel like it's a separate question. There's like the design or what people want, and then there's the cost element. And
Question 5,
current question 5,
if you look at so if you go back up, the matrix we're in, go back up to the first page, bottom of Steve's edits. A private fundraising campaign is being proposed to help pay for the Horseshoe Project. What is your preference about using, and we said to adjust public funds to be taxpayer funds as part of the final plan?
I do think it's important to tease out the difference between maintenance and constructing whatever it is that's chosen.
So question 5 as written is basically a yes, no, where you had a gradation.
Yeah, I wanted to know how strongly people were in favor of spending money.
And in which case I would recommend we swap out question 5 for this question,
Okay.
because in my mind, they are duplicative.
Yes,
Oh.
yes,
It's just one is a yes, no, one is a gradient.
right, right.
Though I do truly feel like they're gonna be like, well, how much? Like, how much money are we talking about? Are you talking about like $5 of taxpayer money? Or are you talking about like 100K? Because you'll have very different opinions on the preservation of the horseshoe.
Well,
Trail.
the two suggestions be merged
Yeah, I was
to
thinking
make
that.
a gradient. So it keeps the fundraising campaign up front still, and then adds in a bit more of the
So,
taxpayer funds level of support.
so instead of in question 5, what is your preference? We could do, what is your level of support?
About using taxpayer funds.
Taxpayer funds for the,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine with that. I think a shorter survey is probably better.
Are we losing your point though about how there's gonna be ongoing maintenance costs associated, or no?
I thought we had that.
No, because
So-
Sabrina's new question
Yes.
7
Okay.
also addresses that.
and number 5 talks at the very end about as being part of the final plan, not the maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. So we'd have the updated 5. And then we'd have whatever number ends up being, which is the like, how important is to the project have minimal costs and upkeep for the town.
So we add new question number, whatever,
Yeah.
from Stephen. Okay.
Well, from Sabrina.
From Brady,
It's-
yeah.
Oh. So,
The one she had is new question 7,
okay. Okay.
right?
Yeah, that's it.
New question 7 is a great band name. Super song.
NQ7.
That's it.
Okay, yep, nope, I think I have good notes, and we'll pass it back to Beverly and let her recraft or update.
Thank you. Is that all for that? Okay, perfect. All right, Farrington Corner update.
Okay, remind me the last chapter that you remember.
He came in and made a proposal, and we wanted to get feedback from legal about his conditions.
Well,
And
because legal said we can't do an easement, but you can do a license.
A
And you said,
license.
great, we'll go check that out. And now I'm reading the memo or the response, and we can't do a license.
The license that he wants.
but we can't do the license that
Response.
Mr.
Okay, so that's.
That was where I got confused, because like you
Yeah.
told us to do a license.
It does feel like Will's making a suggestion and then retracting it, but I get it. There's a specific language. that
He's looking at
reacting
the
to.
5,
Okay.
at the 5 points that Mr. Odie presented, which was that it was permanent, which went
And
with
we
the
can't
land
do
and all.
4
that.
of them, it looks like.
Right. So Mr. Odie has come back and said that makes sense. I will push these back towards council. Did I put that in there, Mr. Odie's? No.
No.
Okay. It would help the state in any future title review if the license recites the facts as established that the licensees hold fee title to the land and the underlying right of way subject to the public road easement and that the license constitutes the town's consent to the septic system improvements located within the right of way. Second, scope, please have the license cover both areas shown on the plan, which he actually did reach back out to his designer to include that in the plan. Plan will be attached as, he'd like the plan attached as an exhibit, which I think makes 100% sense. Revocation and recording, if the license is to be revocable, I ask that the revocation be on reasonable prior written code, notice 60 days and limited to circumstances where removal is reasonably required for highway purposes. We also would appreciate the town's non-objection to recording the license or short memorandum of it. So future title searches find the consent. So I propose sending that back to council and
Yes, please.
I agree.
seeing what he's comfortable with.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Social media policy.
Hard pivot. Let's talk social media. So team, in your folder, you're first gonna find some recommended next steps and then some discussion points that I will hopefully move you through pretty quickly. But then also you're gonna see a proposed survey to the department heads and volunteers who have social media accounts on behalf of the town. You're gonna see a proposed survey to the residents. And then you're also gonna see the draft social media policy, all of which I encourage you to spend time with. And then there is a Google link that I'm gonna send to Karen to send to all of you where you can make direct comments in there and see some of my comments I've already made, but to back up. So my recommended next steps is to review the draft policy, the department survey and committee survey, provide input. And then step 2, which can be done concurrently, is to circulate these surveys to both the department heads and anyone using social media on behalf of the town, and to circulate, department heads, key committee, to collect operational input from the department heads and volunteers and to launch the community pulse survey so that we can get all this at once. Essentially what we're trying to untangle is from a account holder's perspective, what are they intending to do with their social media accounts? And then from a public perspective, what do they actually want from those social media accounts? And then to bridge, if there is a gap, to bridge that gap in between them. And utilizing the policy to help do that, because we can narrow the focus of what town accounts can be to match what the public actually wants and needs while taking into account how it's been historically used. And then present back to you guys the feedback, survey results, and finalized comment strategy. And the comment strategy pertains to whether we have a blanket strategy where there is no commenting on any social media accounts by the town. This protects us under the right to know, but also under a number of other things. And it's highly recommended by NHMA to not have commenting on, but I want to recognize that historically we have had it on across all social media accounts. So we should dig into that further. Because it might be something where we make a decision to have it on for certain accounts and off for others. A great example is that any accounts on the police Facebook page could be used as evidence and therefore must be protected differently than comments on a town Facebook page. And then final is the formal adoption, and then we move into actual account audit. So after the policy has been adopted, that's when we start going through and auditing, training, and doing the work behind the scenes to bring us all into compliance. Okay, so the first is about if you guys see any holes in this and recommend any other steps. I know this is a lot to take.
Did
in
you
at
say you're
once.
gonna send out the policy and the surveys for commenting?
Yes.
Great.
So I'm gonna send you guys the link. Well, I'm gonna send it to Karen, who's gonna send it to you. And then you will be able to go in and make editing access. You don't have, sorry, commenting access. You
Yep.
don't have editing access. So you may comment up a storm. May I recommend, do not comment off of other people's comments. Do not make plus signs. Do not give, do not engage with anyone else's comments. Just make yours and then get out of Dodge. And
And
we will
so that-
discuss those comments back here in public.
Okay, perfect. And that's going to be for the 2 surveys and the policy?
It's all in one Google Doc together.
Great.
Yep. And so I can take that and recompile that and bring that back for discussion, much like what Beverly did with the comments on the horseshoe pile.
Thanks for all your hard work. It looks very
Yeah.
good.
So my question to you that I'm hoping, like some stuff I was hoping to get here is, do social media policies that we make impact the library? The library is often an island unto itself around certain policies and things where we can't control certain things. And so I'm unclear if this impacts them.
I
too.
saw I went and checked out their social media policy. And I think they operate under a separate, I don't know, I'd have to look further.
Would you
But
mind?
my impression was that they are very separate.
I would guess that that's separate
Okay,
because the trustees are like the select board.
Right.
that was my thought as well, but I didn't want to assume, and I
Yep.
didn't want to go through this whole policy, like this whole thing and not include
Yeah.
key members of the library that should be involved and or put unnecessary work on them if the policy has nothing to do with them. So thank you. Okay, so the answer is no, they are not involved. Okay, so credential management and password storage. These are all things we can discuss without getting the community surveys back in, right? We don't need surveys to talk about these things. As you know from having your own social media accounts, there's usually two-step verification. That access to social media can have large ranging ramifications. And so I'm wondering what our reactions are to investing in a centralized solution for password management. I will give an example, but it is not the example. 1Password is a password management system that is a vault in which it can be used professionally or personally to securely manage passwords. It's not a Excel spreadsheet. It's not a series of emails or sticky notes. It is a repository to hold passwords in there so that if there is a changing of the guard, there is access, or if someone is out sick, or if something happens, there is access to these key social media sites. Something like this could be expanded further to encompass other areas of password management. So I'm mindful that I don't want to force a credentialing system on without thinking if it would want to be used for other aspects, or if there's already a credentialing system in place to keep track of things.
Neil, I think, has 1Pass. He's got something on there. I'm not sure what it was or had something in. So yeah, I don't know most of my passwords. To be honest. So,
That is
Do you
fair.
use
because
1Pass?
1Pass, it pops up, I log
Yeah.
in, it's pretty nice. And then as far as the transition between, coming in new and having so many accounts and so many different things, that was very helpful.
So 1Password, for instance, as an example, has like an $80 a year fee associated with it. And so that was my follow-up question is like, would we want to be investing in a credentialing system? I would recommend yes.
For $1 a year?
$80.
$80.
$80. And that's like an example. It
Yeah.
really depends on how many.
$80 a user a year?
No,
But it
they
sounds
have
like
different
we already have one.
plans. They
I
have
don't
different-
remember paying for it, so I don't know. I mean, it could have just hit the credit card too. Let me go and verify what we have
Sure.
and if that.
That'd be amazing to know what we already have, because it could also come in handy in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I'm
Separate
happy, separate from this, I'm happy to get more into these various systems, but whether it's this one or other ones, let you set up vaults and invite guests and have folks have access to this repository when they need it, how they need it, and it lets you organize it into folders to give folks only access to what they need. So for instance, there could be a DPW folder of which only people in the DPW had access to, or key people that you can add or remove users without them being master users that you are paying admin fees for. So this could be a way to help more securely manage our digital assets in general.
My thought for this social media stuff, at least for Facebook anyway, I know for my own business pages, we assign users as admins. So to me, simplifying this, would it make more sense to have like create a ghost user, if you will, that is accessible through the TA, and that is an assigned admin for all these different pages?
Potentially, in the account audit, we can see how the original accounts were set up.
Yeah.
As you likely know, it depends on which era of
Mm.
Facebook business they were set up across Instagram and Facebook,
Yeah.
and whether or not they're a business account or a personal account. So there could be, and I'm
Yeah.
not like, there could be an account out there that has the name of a committee or a department on it that was spun up 10 years ago under a personal account. And
I'm aware of one actually, but
so I'm not sure what, and that could be part of
Yeah,
the account audit,
yeah.
right? What is the migration process? Because there is a migration process, like
Yeah.
to move from a personal to a business. But that's the stuff that we do after the policy is in place. Because I don't feel like we are necessarily empowered to go forth and start making those moves
Right.
until we have a policy in place about how everything should be. And then we work from there. And the survey that goes out does ask folks about like, what are they using and why are they using it and how are they using it? But yes, I do agree with you. Like that's another way of doing it.
Yep.
If everyone actually has,
it's set up properly.
yes,
Okay.
and or can be migrated that way. I'm with you.
Yep.
I hear you.
All right.
Okay, so we'll hear back from Karen about what we might already have and then go from there. Emergency response, and so something we will want to include is how emergency public safety updates are coordinated between police, fire, highway, and town administrator. I include the question like, how are they currently? And I have a feeling at this period in time, you call, you text, you communicate, but we want to extrapolate what does communication to the public look like and how would it happen in the event of an emergency across these platforms. To what Steve is saying, excuse me, if we had one master Facebook account that everything else was linked to, it would make it a bazillion times easier to make one post that
Push
hit
out emergency.
across
response
multiple things at
information.
once. So that is something to keep in mind is at the end of this, not only should we have a better sense of how do these operate, but how do we use them for emergency preparedness? And then this brings to the comment strategy. So about preferring a uniform policy across all departments, all comments enabled or disabled, or a hybrid approach where public safety, police, fire accounts are read only, while event-focused accounts like rec, EDC allow moderated comments. At the last conversation, we were leaning towards no comments because of the risk it puts us at. If we were to enable comments, but regardless, we should look into, and this is the last one, records retention infrastructure. Because our posts, our websites, everything are considered
Public record.
public record. And the minute our comments are turned on, it is public forum. So something that we can get better about before we have to get better about it is like how there are things out there. It kind of amused me to see that Civic Plus actually had a platform that they were advertising that kind of auto documented everything for you so that you had it ready to go in the event of a request. So that's
It's either
another,
that or asking Kim to like take screenshots every 28 days of what the website looks like.
basically, yes. Basically, yeah. And the thing is, like, this is those things where you don't need them until you need them. Like, we may set all this up and never need it, but in this digital age, it is better to have these things set up with the volume of engagement we are receiving across the social media platform than to not have it and be sad about it.
But if it's not an easily produced record, it doesn't exist.
Yes, and the recommendation for the retention came from an NHMA social media training. So I'm mindful that screenshotting social media isn't hard. It's just time consuming. So like if we needed to provide, we can also just look at the cost and be like, what is the cost in doing it or not doing it?
Yeah.
Setting up one of these record retention platforms that automatically take care of your digital record retention.
I remain firmly in the uniform policy, no comments enabled.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the risk is quite large.
Yeah.
And I've seen what was previously totally benign interaction all of a sudden explode, and then you're off to the races.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to be the staff person in charge of trying to moderate those comments, because I think you have to make really, really hard decisions. And you need to be trained, and I think we just avoid all of that by just saying, we're not gonna have any comments.
And the majority of posts are shared across other groups and other places that,
Comment there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. When you are looking at the surveys, there are on the department surveys 2 questions regarding public comment. And so you may choose in your commenting on this to say, look, if we're just making that decision, we shouldn't seek feedback. And or you might say getting that feedback will actually may or may not change my mind. If you're like, nope, it does not change my mind, we shouldn't ask the question, but take a look at it, comment on it.
I'm happy to ask it, because I don't want to say I don't, you know, there's not a compelling reason for me to rethink that, because maybe there is, so I'm just not thinking of, but
Then maybe we should probably add something that says provide reasons why.
did it say, did it have
Because
that?
if it
optionality?
just says what's your preference,
Yeah, I don't have a lot of open responses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wanna have to,
I mean, I'll be honest, that's a pretty firm position, so it would have to be really compelling explanation. And I don't know if the survey would capture that then.
Could we be blunt and say we're leaning toward not having comments enabled? Do you have a compelling reason why that doesn't work?
If so, email Karen, because there's not a way to sort of communicate that in the survey.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have strong feelings about it either way. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
don't often engage, if I'm reading something online.
well, and as it is for someone who already monitors 4 Facebook groups in town, the majority of questions that are asked aren't getting real answers anyway.
Yeah.
You know, they're not staff or anyone else in town that are answering these questions. And so just comments to any notification posts that the road is getting graded, somewhere, there's no, I can't imagine any additional information that can't be just, asked directly of DPW.
There was something that came in today, and I don't want to elaborate too much on it because it's still something I'm thinking about. But if the town posts something and sometimes residents have a different view or have a different interpretation of, like, okay, well, the example is closing Kimball Pond Beach. I could see where there's a potential problem there allowing comments.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this and looking at the draft survey questions to staff. I mean, I think we should pull these and just say, we're not going to do comments, and just, well, I mean, that's my personal view, is that I don't see the utility outweighing the risk. And so I don't think we need to really gather input on that.
Didn't we talk about making sure that all of our posts had something on it that said, if you have questions about, here's the phone number, or here's the email address?
correct. So if we disable comments, a recommended best practice is to come up with template language that either sits within the post and or is like prominent on the account, quick and easy to find. So you know where to go to ask questions of that account. And so, for instance, for the police, I wouldn't expect them to necessarily have the time to always type out the disclaimer on the thing. So you'd want it like in the header or in the cover, like you'd want it somewhere really prominent up there to be like, for any questions or emergencies, like here's what you do. Like it should be somewhere very prominent so that folks aren't viewing, not that anyone is, but that folks aren't viewing the comment section or the lack thereof as them not being available.
Right.
But yes, 100%. And I think that comes into the account audit part after the policy is in place, where we go account by account and look at it to say, if I am a member of the public and I'm engaging with this account in the way in which they structure it, is it clear to me
Yep.
how I get in touch with someone? If I can't comment on something to get their attention.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, team. You will get a link. You will put comments on said
So-
link and then we'll bring it back to the next meeting, hopefully. And keep it rolling with the goal of getting the surveys in line, recognizing that there's a bunch of surveys in line to get feedback. Because I do think the community feedback is some of the ones I'm most interested in. So that we're actually providing a service online that meets what our residents need.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, moving along, public art policy, just mine. I took some of the comments we discussed, the last time I brought this, well, the first time I brought that up, actually. Implemented them into the draft, and then I sent the draft over to Michelle Cedillo, who's on the Village Working Group, because I know she was involved in public art and such in that group. She came back with some feedback to discuss what you have there. And I didn't go any further with it afterwards because a lot of it had to do with budgeting for expenses, which well, at least in the draft, I tried to avoid any public taxpayer dollars for public art and tried to make it on the artist, really. So I was trying to gauge people's thoughts on that. And cataloging, I think she was just, it sounds like she was reiterating the need for cataloging, which I did include in the draft as well. Yeah.
I love the idea of construction projects having to chip in some percentage for public art at that location.
Mhm.
I don't know how often that would be triggered, but that's a really, really cool idea.
Yeah.
And I also like the committee responsibility for cataloging, just so there's a record of all this. The fundraising authority piece is kind of interesting, just because I'm currently in the process of working on our donation policy, which there's a little overlap to.
Yeah.
That's a potentially thorny one. And I don't know what the better outcome is. Do you know, what is this, Portsmouth? I mean, do they do a lot of fundraising? Is that like a common way they?
Yeah, I don't honestly know. She just sent this to me because she's done some of the research on that piece.
Okay.
Um,
And then the budget one, I don't know that we can give them money over a 3-year period because it would lapse at the end of the year. I
Yeah.
think Portsmouth is maybe different because they're a city and they have a charter.
yeah.
So I don't know the money part for them. I don't know how that would work. And then my final thing was on the ordinance itself. Was it? Oh, the applicability. I'm not sure that we could regulate commercial property where the artwork is visible from a public way.
Oh, I think I meant to
We-
remove that, actually.
Commercial property.
Because it would be regulating private property, expression
But
of
we-
private property.
We already do that to some extent. So,
Oh, yeah.
We do?
right, am I making this up? When Barrel and Basket did their thing, didn't they have to get approval from Karen or
Do what thing?
no? They have a mural on the side of their building.
Oh, they maybe had
In
to
the
get a
precinct.
sign permit, but I don't know that we regulated the content of what they put up.
It's
know
in
what,
the
I think-
precinct, so it's probably,
Right.
It'd be different
And
anyway.
it's funny because I thought I removed that commercial property because below it's under B.
Oh, right.
It says
yeah,
does not apply to private property unless it includes business names, but then that becomes sign ordinance stuff.
Right, yeah,
It's completely separate.
yeah.
So I meant to remove that.
So I don't, it sounds silly, but I think we need to say applicable zoning regulations adopted by the town of Hopkinton and the Hopkinton Village Precinct, because they have their own zoning
Yeah,
ordinance.
that's true.
And then the Hopkinton sign ordinance is the same thing. There's a different sign ordinance in the precinct, and there's town-owned property in the precinct. So I think we gotta call it out.
Wait, do town-owned property in the precinct have to follow the precinct zoning as opposed to the town zoning?
Presumably, yeah.
Maybe.
Enjoy that one, okay.
Usually if you're doing a governmental use, you don't have to follow local zoning. And so that wouldn't matter if it was in the precinct or in the town.
Wait, so if we were doing something at the Bates Building, we wouldn't have to pay attention to our own zoning
If it's a
ordinances?
governmental use,
Government.
Does public art count as a governmental use?
I don't know.
If it was to announce voting days or something like that.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I thought I had covered that under in the purpose and intent, the last sentence.
This chapter does not
Oh, right.
supersede or override any other applicable zoning, building, safety, or design regulations adopted by the town of Hopkinton.
Can we just add or the village precinct?
Sure.
Or separate.
Or the village
It's
precinct.
the only one,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I totally removed anything about the planning board. Because it wasn't necessary. It sounded like.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Can I be really silly for a second? In public art definition, any original work of art accessible and visible to the public, whether permanent or temporary. What about if it's a reproduction of artwork?
I'm not the artist, yeah.
May I make the recommendation, any original or reproduction
Okay.
of work of art? Just that way, someone is like, it must only be original, it can't be, because you know, some artists will paint something and then make prints of it and then like reproduce the prints, and you could see a world where someone like reproduces a print of their work and then that goes out into a public space, and I want to be mindful
Yes.
that people don't get nitpicky over being like, well, if it's not the original, it can't go in the public space, because it doesn't fit the definition.
Right. I just want to make sure that it doesn't get construed as someone taking a photocopy of Monet and putting it up somewhere.
That can be
Is-
public art.
That's-
Yes, but is there copyright?
Well, that'd be the stuff they have to sort out anyways, because that
okay,
wouldn't
that's
be our jurisdiction. wouldn't
Hope that's
touch
not-
that. That's just copyright. Like that's its own problem.
Uh,
So you could say any work of art accessible and visible to the public. Take out the word original,
Oh,
the word
yeah.
reproduce,
Yeah.
just art. Now, what is art is a whole different story, but like,
And that's for the arts committee to decide.
Yeah.
That's the book.
and then for sign, to Vicky's point, as defined in the town of Hopkinton sign ordinance and or as applicable, the like Hopkinton precinct, whatever the right words are from there.
Yeah.
I do agree with the rest of the definition of sign, but it is funny because I looked up the thing I couldn't remember, and it's the whole donut situation,
Yeah.
the donut sign and the
Incorrect.
argument of, you know, was it
Was this
advertisement, was it art, what was it? And they ruled on the side of it being art.
So the process, Steve, is that you need a sign permit from the planning department?
No, that would be if it were a sign. Reread
Okay.
this.
Permit
permit
required? applications shall be submitted to the planning department.
That is not. No. Review. Okay, no.
Should it be to the arts?
It was
Committee?
it would be the arts committee,
Right.
and then that
they
would
take
then
it.
go then that would go to us.
Yeah, they make a recommendation to the select board.
Okay. This was very late at night.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, this is a great start.
Since we're not overseeing private property. Under 6, application requirements, E, written authorization from the property owner. Do we need that one? If it's all town-owned land or public
Right.
right of way,
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, I could see something that's like, if someone came to us and said they wanted to do something and it was on DPW property, we'd be like, have you talked to Dan yet? So there is something there to being like the impacted,
Right.
like the department or
So maybe-
person overseeing the impacted town property.
So maybe the department head or otherwise.
Yeah,
Whoever
I'm not
oversees the
200% sure, but I just could see, and again, I don't know why someone would be like, I'm putting something up on the DPW like land. But
Well, fire
Well,
department,
honest-
police
The highway
department,
garage?
yeah,
you know, there are
yeah.
other,
Maybe under setbacks and access, where it says artwork should not obstruct pedestrian or vehicular travel, maybe we could just add in something that says, our town operations.
That was someplace else.
You were talking about putting something in the right of way. You could put up a big old billboard or whatever, big old mural and right in front of somebody's yard as long as you were in the right of way. Is that,
Well, under the applicability, it's number 2. It has town-owned land or buildings,
okay,
public rights of way.
well, public right of way could be in front of your house in the public right of way.
well,
It could impact your view of the street or something.
well, yeah, but the town couldn't give authorization for something like that at someone's private right of way though, or in front of someone's.
That'd be
private-
weird.
No, but if we can plow the sidewalk in front of your house because it's in the town's right of way, what's to stop us from putting something there?
I think there's limits on what the town has authority to allow in a public right
In
of
the right of
way.
way, okay.
Yeah. Like mailbox is about the only structure.
So then should we include public right of way in the list of applicable like areas, or is this just about town-owned land?
Could be.
Is there an example of a right of way that could be used?
That this is maybe not the same thing, but I know in some communities that have like light poles, that they have banners on the side of them, and I've seen them used for, advertising, but also for artistic
Mm.
sort of
I know exactly what you're
opportunities.
talking about, yeah.
Yeah,
And that would be in the right of way.
those are, I think, usually in the right of way.
You also need permission from the utility company for that.
I can't just go stapling things to that's fair, okay.
Not like telephone poles, I mean like light posts.
Yeah.
Like banners.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
we had those.
Which
We do, we have like 5 of them in town,
Where?
Where are the?
right here,
Oh, right, on this,
literally right here. There as you're driving towards Vicky's house, they end right before Vicky's house.
right, sure.
Talking just streetlight poles, which are
Street-
different from utility poles.
Yeah,
That's what you're saying. We
Yeah.
don't have any in town,
other than
other than at the high school.
those 5 that Melissa just mentioned.
We'll worry about this later. I don't wanna leak
That's
this
fine.
meeting where there are lamps in town after the meeting is done.
Yeah, I
But-
think this looks really good, Steve, so thank you.
Let's get there. I'll rework it again.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for reaching out to Michelle to get the additional feedback.
Yeah.
And it is interesting, Stephen, because when I was looking over this before the meeting, the thing that caught my eye was the note from Michelle about the way the committee in Portland was set up differently. And
Yeah.
I was curious if it was simply like the governmental structure of our town versus their city.
That's what I suspect, yeah. Because I don't know how we would raise and appropriate money.
You could do it like a, could you like sort of like a revolving fund,
I guess, yeah, and make them agents to expend.
something?
Something, we could do
along
that,
those
yeah,
lines?
yep, that would work. Yeah. So that's maybe the workaround to put money aside for the arts committee.
I'm also seeing, I've used, property interchangeable with what might be art piece or sculpture or something, so
Oh, yeah.
it could be kind of confusing as well.
Mhm.
So I can try to go through that again and word some of that.
If there's something specific in Portsmouth on the fundraising piece, can you send that to me or ask Michelle
Yeah.
where it is? Because I'd be curious to look at that.
I am mindful that I would not want to embed specific fundraising language in this ordinance. I would rather encompass all financial related so that it was applicable to any and all appropriate committees. So like not saying like the art committee.
Not
can do it, but
singling
say,
out,
like,
yeah,
okay, if there is a mechanism, these are the types of committees that would qualify for that
okay,
over time, so that we are not cherry picking in a time and instead of saying like, these are the
Yeah.
types. That's all, because I think
Yeah.
that there's a number of things we've encountered over the past year or two where I want it not to be embedded in this ordinance.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and I tried to write it so that all the art piece ownership is retained and their
Mhm.
maintenance is required.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because
I like that.
otherwise, if we're spending money to maintain it, then it might as well just be donated and then become permanent. But I'll still get that information either way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think down the road, similarly not embedded in this ordinance, but I can envision a list of almost like places where we would welcome some art, right?
Mhm.
But again, not in this.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, moving along, pulse survey for committee chairs. We went over this a little bit.
Yeah, so
Through the,
Sabrina and I talked about it, and I don't remember where we landed with this. Were we going to?
well, we didn't really discuss it too much, other than we
Okay.
just reviewed.
More responses.
Yeah, so we had 7 initially,
we
and I
had
think we got
7.
up to 11 out of 20.
Okay.
And it seems like for the most part, everything appears to be going well, except
Yeah.
for some information we provided afterwards, but for question 2, which I had asked that it be on here, I wonder how well this was read by the department chairs, I mean, the committee chairs, and whether or not some were seeing it as we don't need it because you're asking, or we don't need it because we have it already.
Hmm.
And I think there's a difference because there's only a few that have it already or have a select board member, and whether or not, because ex officio and standing member who it happens to be a select board member, 2 different things. And I know that I've received comments personally from a couple of the committees in town that said they didn't feel that it was necessary. But there was just a couple individuals as well.
And some are required by law.
Well, some are required, which really It doesn't really
It's hard to
matter.
figure out. Yeah, I wonder how many of those
It's really-
responded.
It's really just a couple
I
budget.
think it's two,
planning
if
and-
I'm doing my math correctly.
Yeah, I think it's just budget and planning,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably right.
So do you want to take this further, or, I mean, we don't really, and just go with the fact that we don't know,
Yeah.
what do you want to do?
Well, I mean, if nothing else, I learned that most committees seem like they're doing pretty okay, for the most part.
That was I was
Which is
actually
good.
surprised with the positivity
Yeah.
of the survey. Pleasantly surprised. And would not want to just leave it here per se, but for any, having not seeing the raw data, but for any particular, if there was a trend of a series of negative answers from a chair in regards to their committee, I'd love to know how we can best reach out to them and support them. Because I don't think we need to do a deep dive with every single chair per se, but if, again, not seeing the raw data, if there was one who was like, I don't have the people I need, I don't have this, I don't have that, like across a spectrum of questions, then that would be worth checking in with them or saying like, is it helpful to get some work time with the select board to get on the agenda to work through anything, or double check, like, do they have a select board member on their committee? And if so, can that select board member be doing something to help unstick? And I really appreciate that they took the time to write comments.
Mhm.
I do want to follow back up with the one comment about the what's it called? Officio,
Ex officio.
ex officio. Counting towards quorum and vote, there seems to be some confusion in there, because as I understand it, being an ex officio means that you don't count towards quorum, but you do still.
I think that comment is from the planning board. And
Yeah,
if that's correct, then the ex officio is a full member and does count toward the quorum.
Excellent, okay.
so that would be like the exception to
Yeah.
sort of,
So as the person representing on that
Yeah.
committee, I'm like, I understood that I could vote, so I just wanted to
Yes.
double check. 'Cause
Yeah,
I've
you
got
are-
many voting,
Yes.
so.
I'm curious for whomever wrote, what would make you more successful? And they said, provide a budget for consideration and implementation. Having so many committees and not knowing who wrote that,
yeah.
I mean, now's the time if we're gonna like add in a different, an additional part of the budget or consider an additional part of the budget. So if there's a way to follow up with that, just so that
Yeah,
we could.
I don't know, I think the first survey we did, the town meeting one,
Mhm.
we might have had email addresses, and this one's for some reason didn't capture them.
Okay.
So, but we could put that out in our committees
Mhm.
and say, hey, it's budget.
It's budget season.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And it's budget and CIP season, so if there's a capital project as well.
I
Mhm.
feel like that's a better way to capture that input from the committee chairs than to do it through more pulse survey.
Mhm.
I guess I don't know where to go with these results at this point, because I feel like they've already given us some good insight.
It's funny, in my head, I was planning for more negativity. And I had a path for that, but I'm like, oh, things seem to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So keep going.
That's a valuable, piece of knowledge we've obtained.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so I will craft an email to committee chairs, or ask Beverly to shoot it out to whoever she sent this out to. Just saying, hey, it's budget season, CIP season. Let us know if you have anything in mind.
And before, I know Bonnie's raising her hand, but I want to say, like, for any committees that are currently undergoing work, this doesn't stop that or halt any of the work that's happening with individual committees. This was meant for us to know, like, holistically, what is like the morale, what is the charge across the wide swath of committees?
Well, I think we found Bonnie kind of through this process, and I didn't feel like there was, I didn't feel like we'd actually, wrap this up. So I wanted to make sure that we had taken everything out of here that was important and acted on it. So.
Don't look at me, look at that.
As a committee chair, it would be helpful to know what we can expect from having a select board member come to our committees. Like, should we assume that because things are discussed, there's urgency about it, that select board member will bring that to the select board, or is it just for somebody to be there and listen?
In my personal viewpoint is if the committee wants to express something via the liaison or ex officio, that should be discussed at that meeting. And so everybody understands what the expectations are. Because I think the sort of baseline is, we do report back to this board what's happening, but I don't know that every time it conveys exactly what the committee may have hoped for, if that makes sense. And so if you guys feel strongly about something, I think you should have that discussion in your committee to make it really, really clear.
And get on the agenda.
That too, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with your take. I think at budget committee, our conversations are long and variable. And so it could be difficult to pinpoint what am I taking back to the select board? And so if there is a specific request, we do formally say, I would like this. And some of it might be in a discussion format, but then at the end of that discussion, we will codify what you might consider deliverables back from the select board.
Right, exactly.
Right. Anything else on this? Okay, and goals check-in.
Rushing it.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like we're plowing through them here,
Yeah.
even in some of the things we're doing tonight. So yay.
I am late getting donation draft to you and I'm working on it. And I
That's
hope to
fine.
do it soon.
This is
That's
a
fine.
judgment-free zone.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no.
Respects.
Okay, good.
That is actually a huge undertaking and very confusing.
Yes, and I don't think it's gonna be,
Multifaceted.
it'll be more than one draft, so,
So, yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. Anything else? Good. All right. All right, new business, TIF working committee updates.
That's me. That's me.
Stage whisper.
Okay, so do me a favor, don't read the memo,
Okay.
just listen to my story, and then you can read the memo as time goes on.
I'm gonna close.
Again, thank you.
I have
So
paper memos too.
nice. So again, credit goes to Beverly for having synthesized a lot of information. Long story short, we learned a lot about the TIF. We went back and chit chatted with Central Regional Planning, who were part of the group that originally wrote the two TIF plans. If you ask somebody, what is a TIF? There's a couple different ways to describe it. One is it is a packet of paper that just makes some claims about a certain area of town. And that's the plan. The plan is a packet of paper. What is the TIF is also a swath of land, right? What is the TIF is also a bunch of calculated dollar amounts and a bank account. So there's a lot of different things that is the TIF. There was an idea that exit 6 was going to be clearly the place where development would flourish. 8 years have gone by and it become clear through various means that it's not necessarily the case. There's been some surveys done to see, could we put sewer out there? Could we put water out there? And 8 years ago in the TIF plan, it estimated that adding sewer up there on both sides of the street would be like $3.2 million. And we've revised those estimates to be more like $16 million. Regarding water, DES is absolutely not interested in us trying to add on to the Kentucky Water Precinct. So it would be a separate well. We would have to just dig a well from scratch. We would have to decide how many people we would want it to feed, and basically just digging a well without putting in any pipes coming off of the well is like $500,000. And so just backing up for a minute, there are two different ways in which a city might want to implement a TIF. One is when there's a region area that they want to revitalize, or one where there's a specific development project that they want to support, right? Like how the Fox Run Mall is being completely redone and Newington is paying for the upgrades to the infrastructure through a tax increment finance district. So we, the town of Hopkinton, implemented this Exit 6 TIF with more of the area that could be updated idea instead of a specific development project in mind, or what Beverly calls a bird in the hand. And most of the time, TIFs are pushed forward when there's a bird in the hand. Or in Beverly's experience, the area that could be revitalized is more of like maybe a core or a downtown, not a satellite district adjacent to the downtown. So Mr. Wilkie, who is the head of the planning board, sort of indicated to me that they have, in his tenure, never had anybody come knocking about interest in developing the space around Exit 6 TIF. There's also considerations because wetland setbacks have been increased. And so there's a lot of water up there. And so the usable land is somewhat even lesser than maybe 8 years ago when people were originally looking at it. That being said, you know, our confluence of roads is a blessing and a curse, right? It makes us very desirable, but it also adds so many logistical issues. So we know about the logistical issues at Exit 6 because of our continual discussions with McLean. Also, we've had indications from the planning board and the director of planning that they haven't had birds come knocking to be in the hand. And what may not have been anticipated in 2018 was that the most recent revaluation really kicked the amount of value of this space into a different level of the atmosphere. And all of a sudden, the money we're putting away dramatically increased. So we've had this for 8 years. And in these 8 years, it's accumulated $1.6 million. But $0.6 million was last year. And another $0.6 million is going to be this year. So it's got 1.6, it's going to be 2.2 after December. So $2.2 million sounds like a lot. $600,000 sounds like a lot. But then when you look at what we could do with it, what the infrastructure costs, that's actually like very little. There are certain things that you might envision that could be smaller, more digestible things versus sewer on both sides of the street. So it's not to say that nothing could be done to improve the people who live there or to make it more desirable to increase development. Another aspect that we know is that to invoke Jeff Donahoe, unless we can court $100 million worth of investment, it's unlikely to really move the needle on the tax rate. So, because, you know, our adjusted valuation at the end of last year was like $1.396 billion. So to move the tax rate around, even 5 or 10% would be like $100 million worth of investment. So it's difficult to conceive of maybe the dreams that were associated with the original TIF plan actually coming to fruition. Or if they do, then it's further out in the future than maybe they anticipated. Also, everything is way more expensive than it was in 2018. The world has changed. So there are many options as a select board. And most of them have to be presented at town meeting. But there's one thing that we should do that we don't need to consult. In fact, we need to do it like yesterday, which is that the TIF is supposed to have an advisory board. It's supposed to have a dedicated group of people who are managing it. And I believe that the administrator of the TIF is also supposed to be re-upped every year. And I think it was Neil, but we need to formally make it Karen. Also, we need to constitute this board. It needs to have at least one person who lives, please jump in if I say anything that's not right, Karen. It needs to have at least one person that lives within the boundaries of the TIF. Yep, that's my exact same thought. And then we were thinking that maybe it should be like 5 members. We're not trying to make this like an administrative nightmare. We're trying to follow the letter of the law, which says that we have to have this, and we've been operating without it.
Did we ever have one?
I don't think so.
It did, I think, it was supposed to. And it may have the first year, because I think initially when it was formed, it did appoint the town administrator as administrator to be appointed annually. I don't know if it appointed an actual district advisory board, but
The DAB.
the intention was there.
I know that they could not find anybody who lived in it for sure.
I was gonna say, I don't know that we've ever had an advisory board. I know that we've tried multiple times.
Who would be willing to serve?
Not sure if you're.
Yeah. No, cause I remember having conversations about people reaching out to property owners within the district, and I think the law says you can also be bordering the district as well, and we just couldn't find people to say yes.
Sorry to take you off.
No,
So
that's right.
we need to put.
So we've got an immediate thing to do, 2 immediate things to do. Appoint Karen, the administrator. Convene a district advisory board, DAB. And then talk about what we want to do leading up to town meeting. And I think constituting the board is absolutely the most important thing to do. But having talked about this at length, I do have a personal recommendation for what we should work toward for the 2027 town meeting and then 2028. But again, this could be something where in conjunction with the district advisory board, we make these moves because they need to exist. And maybe they're even the ones who present to town meeting. I don't know. But here's the thing. As you may recall, the tax incremental finance district means all these properties that their valuation gets put on pause, and that we keep a tally of every value, all the value that gets added on top of whatever that pause number was on April 1st, 2018. The taxes from that original valuation go into the hopper, the kitty, the operating budget. But the taxes from anything above that valuation gets skimmed off and put into this separate account. However, we have the opportunity to moderate how much of that money gets scraped off the top. We don't have to put 100% of anything over that April 1st, 2018 value into the TIF. We can decide either a flat dollar amount to appropriate out of that money, or we can scale it to 1% instead of 100% of that money going in. Maybe we say 10% of that money goes in or something like that. So am I still speaking correctly? Okay. So that change would be a change to the TIF plan, which is that packet of paper that I mentioned at the beginning. There's a section called K10 or K11, and we're suggesting that when the time comes, and with the TIF advisory board, we can decide all the particulars, that we modify how much money for the next year. Unfortunately, the ship has sailed for this year, but for the next year, maybe instead of $600,000 or $700,000, maybe we put $60,000 or $70,000 in, because there's the future of the TIF does not necessarily need to exist in just this static location. So that then put your 2028 hat on. What if we expanded perhaps the bubble of the boundary to include downtown. Or to include the wastewater treatment plant or something that would help us because we have, money that's supposed to be for this bubble of space. So, but we can potentially adjust the bubble or, I mean, we could do a third one, but I don't want to do that, but we could. But Beverly, having her background in planning, has this great phrase that she used called strengthen the core. And, it really feels like feedback from the housing committee and from the economic development committee that Kentucky is where, our hearts are, it's where our focus is. And so potentially instead of trying to find birds in the hand for maybe a less, I don't know, I'm saying desirable, but like, then maybe if we had a pot of money to improve infrastructure actually closer to maybe the economic center that we would have opportunity, we had chances to use it. There's one more phrase that I think is worth saying, which is the but for. So there's bird in the hand. There's also the but for, which basically indicates that I would want to do a project, but for the lack of infrastructure here. And that would be appropriate use of TIF money. I want to do economic improvement, economic development, but for the lack of fill in the blank. And that's maybe where the town could come in and say, well, we have this dedicated pot of money, so let's work together and make that happen. So the bird in the hand might have the but for, which is where we would want to spend that money. In theory.
Question.
Go ahead.
Well, first, I move that we appoint Karen, our town administrator, as the administrator of the TIF.
Both TIFs.
Both TIF, all the TIF.
We got two of them.
So let's just get that done.
I second your
Second.
motion.
Oh,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, when
Progress.
we reconstitute this committee, what is their jurisdiction and what is their, what do they need to be doing besides existing?
Okay, that is in the memo. Now I refer us to the.
I can go back there and read that in a second, because then my next question is, the money that's in the TIF, can it ever be released from the TIF?
Yeah.
How and when can it be released from the TIF?
I mean, I'll get Karen to correct me if I'm wrong, but we would do it at town meeting.
That is my understanding.
So,
Sorry, by release, we're talking.
Move the
If-
money
or
back
to
into the
operating.
operating account.
Is that what you're?
We are allowed to do that. We are also allowed to pause the TIF. We're allowed to not put any money in.
Yep.
We could just push pause on it too.
Both of these are at town meeting.
yeah, I can't just do that tonight. That's a town meeting.
Mm.
That would have to happen. I guess the reason why I'm asking these specific questions is the earlier 200K surprise price tag that's just come out. It's the number of bonds as a town we've taken on over the last couple of years to help pay for various infrastructure projects. It's not remembering off the top of my head what our current balance is of debt to bonds versus money that's free flowing and how.
We have a 10% debt service of the operating.
What's that MS-35 that you guys signed tonight that has it at the very end of it?
Is that healthy, not healthy for a town? I mean, not zero, but so I guess what I'm saying is I love the excitement, I love all the opportunity, and I don't want to go squandering money, but I'm also saying are we in a unique situation to kind of reset or propose resetting the debt of the town and taking care of some big infrastructure things if there is no idea right now about what to do with the TIF money that's been put aside?
Yeah, I mean, yes,
Let
the
me-
short answer is yes.
Let me just add that those bonds, if they're bond bank bonds, which I believe all of them are, cannot be prepaid.
That's lame. I disagree with the banking system.
So even though we may have access to this money,
can't-
we're locked
yeah.
into making those payments for the full.
Thank you for pointing it out for the record, and my dislike of the banking system may also be noted for the record. Thank you.
Yeah.
And not that I'm opposed to big ideas or exploration, but I'm also just noting, I think one of the things that can hold us back from getting excited about new projects is the debt from old projects. And there is something to be said about simultaneously investing in our downtown area and exploring the ways that make our lives better, while also making sure that all of these surprise infrastructure things, CIPs get refilled and
Right.
things happen that help cushion for the town for a little bit and give some debt relief.
Can I ask, the recommendation, is it only the exit 6 TIF, or does it extend to the Hart's Corner one as well?
I mean, in our conversations, which I mean, I think, you know, it's up to all of us, but we were proposing basically leaving the Hart's Corner one alone because
Okay.
we want to see what comes after the Rotary.
Okay, that's fair.
I was just gonna say, there were four things that the committee came up with, or the working group came up with.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. One was no change, which we
These are
ruled
the
out.
choices.
So just to kind of back it up a bit. One was the boundary readjustment, contribution amendment, and then dissolution was the other one. We ruled out no change in dissolution. Because
Why did you guys rule out dissolution, given sort of what you said? I'm curious as to why that's not on the table for you guys anymore, because I thought that's where you were gonna end up, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's the aspirational aspect of it
Okay.
that, you know, there were reasons being why it created in the first place.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, honestly, I'm not like lobbying against a solution. It's just sitting around with the central regional planning folks who have a lot of, let's say, qualitative experience about the different ways in which you can flex this kind of thing. It's like maybe the condo mixed use thing that they envisioned in 2018 isn't going to come to fruition, but there's still big swaths of land that are potentially able to be developed further up there, or that moving the amoeba to incorporate more
Yeah.
might be beneficial because we know we have infrastructure issues as you get closer to the downtown.
Okay, yeah, okay.
But then again, every 5 years, we don't want to kick ourselves off a cliff where all of a sudden we're accidentally putting way too much money aside for future projects, because we have immediate infrastructure needs, which
or do we? I'll pose that question.
What?
We have enormous immediate infrastructure
yes,
problems. I've heard concern about taking on additional debt,
yes.
catastrophic failure. You know, we're sitting with a pot of money, which is, it's kind of like we have a healthy savings account. It's been, you know, the $10 a paycheck's been going in, and all of a sudden it's $20 or whatever. And we look and we've got a nice balance. It potentially gives us flexibility in the future, because I don't see our infrastructure problems getting any smaller.
No.
You mean because we could withdraw from the TIF?
You could do that, or I would, again, I would not, discussion about whether or not to reduce that could be had. But the town is used to a tax rate at the level it is now, and it going up at whatever rate. And it is a hardship for people, but this is also, it's gonna be a hardship if all of a sudden, wham, we have to absorb something huge. So just those are sort of some of my thoughts.
So you guys were, so one of the possibilities is to reduce the percentage of the TIF. Would that, if that were to occur, we'd still be contributing to a big pot of money that, you know, because of the geographic area and the purposes in the plan, we're very limited in how we can spend. So it feels like reducing the percentage is only one piece of the solution, and then it would need to be that and some other things too. Cause
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fairly close to this, and the aspirational part is it's hard for me to let go of that. But I think you've presented it in a way that it's hard to discount the hard facts and the hard numbers and how much more expensive it is to do infrastructure now. And so I'm I guess wanting to keep dissolution on the table, because if we had that pot of money available, we have a bunch of capital improvement things that we could put it towards, and we wouldn't have to bond for that stuff, and we could maybe get ahead of the game going forward. I don't know. I
No, I
don't want to
agree.
discount
I
that.
also like. I don't know how to describe this correctly, but basically like, we still have to appropriate the amount of money we need to run the town.
Yes.
And then we're appropriating all this extra money and setting it aside. And it was for a goal.
A great
and the
idea.
Goal feels unattainable or too far away, or at least
Or any combination.
the sewer part. The sewer part. Beverly may have used the word folly.
Ouch. Yeah.
But we didn't, it's a different world. And now, we have expended over $220,000 to get professional opinions to say how much this would cost.
So the recommendation was really twofold from the committee. Is one, like Vicky said, get your committee or your
Advisory board.
DAB in place, and give them task them with coming up with
For
solutions
sure, yeah.
for 2028, which they can re-examine all three options.
So is the idea then not to propose anything for 27?
No, I want to either pause or greatly reduce the
Oh, okay,
the contribution.
okay, thank you
Just
said
because
that.
like we only have like 6 months or 5 months until town meeting. So redrawing the boundary is gonna take some serious math.
Yes, yeah.
And then you redraw there's two different levers. There's how much space does it take up? And then there's how much percent of the value are we setting aside? So all that math requires like a good amount of time and effort from people. So I don't think that we could do that for this year, but it's a good goal for the following year for that group.
Now, okay, you said it and I just didn't pick up on the detail, but now it makes a lot more sense why we would consider pausing the TIF or reducing the percentage as the only steps we take just in the interim.
Just in these 5 months,
To
yeah.
get to 28, to
Mhm.
give the DAB. and
The damn,
Karen
it's catching on, I love
time
it.
to think through what this. Okay.
To work with EDC and to
Yeah.
do some math, yeah.
And the new person and there's, yeah.
Mhm.
Get public input, all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely, and central regional planning, like, I think it's their job to hope and dream for us, and so, they really don't think that all is lost up there, it's just reimagining what this looks like for the current situation.
So halfway on number 2, halfway in through the second page of the memo, it talks about 3 bullets plus any other recommended changes. That the advisory board would come back to select board with as recommendations. The state law has changed regarding the membership requirements. We did not write our TIF language to encompass changes which will
We didn't
automatically.
write as
absorb.
amended.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be one thing that would need to happen.
Folly.
Amending the amount of the tax increment to be retained is another one. And then identifying staff salary as an eligible expense for the purpose of administration and implementation of the district plan. And
Yeah,
specifically stating that in the plan so that it is an
Yeah.
option without
Yeah.
question.
that was an answer to a question we've had for a long time, can we use
Yeah.
TIF money for salaries? If we wrote it explicitly in the plan, yes.
Certain answer.
Easy answer.
Thank you guys. I mean, I can tell you guys put a lot into this.
Thank you so much.
For doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What support do you need from us in reconstituting the committee?
I think just a vote of the board to, I mean, do we have names? We started with a couple of names. But maybe just, I would recommend digesting this for a couple of weeks. You know, bringing Sabrina up to speed, because this is significant
Yeah.
change. There's a lot going on here, a lot of moving parts. It's very exciting.
Can we
'cause-
suggest names to you and then you reach out to people and say, we're making this
Sure.
happen. Are you interested in serving?
Sure,
Could we do that?
we could do that.
If we need a property owner?
I'd have to look at the RFP.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
There. it's-
We got a recommendation during this that basically like, don't have EDC be on the board, have them work together.
Yeah.
You know,
We've actually had one person already offer who's interested too, so,
okay.
yeah. So,
Should
read the
we-
memo,
do we
think
need to
about
make
it.
A motion to form the DAB or no? I mean, it just needs to exist, right? I mean, it,
Well, it's already technically in existence. It
Yeah.
just hasn't.
empty.
we just need, yeah, it's empty. Okay.
By law exists, it's just
Yeah.
there's nobody in it.
So send me some recommendations for people for names. We'll reach out to some folks.
And we're not married to 5 people. We just didn't want to like make it so that all of a sudden there's too many people and they can't get a quorum.
Or it's just, we can't get 5 people.
Yeah.
One
Yeah,
way
exactly.
or
Maybe
the
it's
other.
fine in the
Too
sky
many,
to
too
say
little.
5 people, yeah. Great.
Thank you very much for all that. All right, waste reduction survey.
I have.
Okay,
Is this the newest of our working like survey drafts?
yes.
Okay.
So, we met Beverly, well, actually Bonnie came to a meeting a couple of weeks ago, or was it a month ago now? And we talked about sort of, she had a lot of questions and that she wanted answers to, and we said, well, that looks like a pulse survey. And, so we've put together something, and there've been a couple of iterations, and we've kind of gone through it and a couple of different times, to help the select board and the waste reduction committee kind of form your future, you know, identify, you know, answer those important questions and identify areas that need focus. So this is what we've got. I personally would love to see this go out sooner than later, because I think your September meeting is coming up quickly. And this is going to be very helpful information in informing decisions made then,
I think this looks
for
really good.
conversation.
Yeah.
And absolutely, Bonnie. I mean, I'm the chair, but
I think this came about because we were talking with Sabrina, who's on the select board liaison, about how most or pretty much all the things that we have brought up to try.
yeah, can you come to, because I'm not really picking you up. You have a soft voice.
Bonnie Christie, 302 Smithfield Road. Most of the things that we have tried to implement over the years, or I think I can say maybe all of them, none of them have been successful. And it's pretty clear from the numbers and the data that we have not reduced our waste at all. And we know that it's getting more and more expensive every year. You guys know that because you had to deal with the contract with Waste Management for this year. And it's, you know, it's like taxes, they never go down, it just goes up. So, you know, we have been keenly interested in finding ways to reduce our waste. And we realized that we don't really know what the town wants. Maybe the town doesn't want to reduce waste. That light bulb came off in my head recently. I said, wait a minute, does anybody even want to do this? So we thought a survey would be helpful to get some feedback from people about What do they know about our waste situation? What kinds of things might they want to do if they did want to help reduce waste? And also for the select board to know, we need your advice and your guidance on this, because whatever we've been doing has not worked. And we want to work with you guys and know what you think we should or could do, so we're not just spinning our wheels. So that's kind of, does that sound right, Karen? Pretty much what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah. I think overall the survey looks fantastic. The only small nitpicky edit I have is on question 5. Composting is inconvenient. Composting is inaccessible in New Hampshire. So I'm mindful that inconvenient makes it sound like I don't have time to do it. And there's a subset of residents who don't have access to yards and to whom getting to a composting situation is not accessible. So I'm curious how we capture that. So
Convenient or inaccessible?
I would love that to include them, because if I was someone who lived in an apartment and I saw it as inconvenient, I would just laugh and be like, y'all don't even understand. Like, it's not that it's inconvenient. It is simply a non-starter.
What if it's hot composting is not available to me? Is
That would be,
sure what you're,
it would, and there is also a different track around composting of like, I don't want to do it. Like, because there's also the, I have a yard and I don't get it, or I don't understand it, or so there's 2 different tracks happening here. And I'm trying to capture like, how do we get both sets of folks? Because if enough folks said composting is inaccessible to me, that tells me that we need to explore composting solutions that are larger than just teaching people how to compost in their backyard. And people might respond to this, and it's a really small subset who say it's not inconvenient, excuse me, that it is inaccessible. And it's not the biggest bang for our buck in terms of where to spend our time. So for me, those are 2 different things, inaccessible versus inconvenient. You are welcome to include them as one. And if we see that there's a ton of responses on that one, we could always figure out a way to tease that out later at a different time.
I tend to think that it's not inaccessible. There are some people who may be living in an apartment complex or something, feel that they can't compost, but pretty much everybody can get one of those buckets that Dan Kilrain takes and bring it to the farmer's market or bring it out to Works on Farm.
That could still
And-
be inaccessible for a subset of folks.
Why?
Well, if you live in an apartment and you work at such a time that you never intersect with Works on Farm, or you don't have your own reliable transportation, there are people who live in town, who live in apartments, who don't own their own vehicles. And so I'm mindful that they might be a small N on the survey. They may actually be a much larger N than we anticipate. And I don't want us to neglect them, because they could be a much larger number than we're giving credit to. So I don't want to say like, yeah. And I mean, granted, in general, then maybe there is something about inaccessibility that should be included here that isn't specific to composting. That's like taking these actions feels inaccessible to me or is inaccessible to me, because I'm thinking about like driving to the transfer station. If you are someone who lives in an apartment and your access to it is through the waste management system that your apartment provides, and they don't provide recycling, and you don't have a car to get to the transfer station to do your own recycling, like that is inaccessible. That is not about it being confusing. That is about like systemic issues that we as a society have not resolved, not just about them recycling better.
Along those lines, I don't know if it's a barrier, but I think that the fact that we have private vendors who will pick up your garbage, but no private vendor that will pick up your recycling is the tipping point for a lot of people. And I know that's not the purview of the Waste Reduction Committee, but I just think that I would guess that that is a factor in some people's willingness to recycle, is that they,
You're paying for someone to go to the transfer station because of lifestyle or whatever, and you're not gonna then take a trip necessarily to the transfer station separately to.
I mean, I don't know if we can capture that in here. I'm just saying out loud that I imagine the fact that they are able to contract for garbage pickup makes it so that they don't go to the dump ever. I just want to say one more thing, and this is just stylistic. I feel like the first paragraph explains the Hopkinton Waste Reduction Committee. And it says, working with the select boards of Hopkinton and Webster, the committee promotes the highest priorities in New Hampshire's solid waste management hierarchy. And then it has 3 bullet points: source reduction, recycling, composting. I think it might be more effective to just say, working with the select boards of Hopkinton and Webster, the committee promotes these 3 bullet points. I think the New Hampshire solid waste management hierarchy is a little too jargony and like inside baseball, and the pulse survey is trying to be short, and we do not need that like level of detail about whose priorities these are. We're just saying this is what we promote.
So in sort of previous pulse survey, we talked about being consistent, extremely to less extremely.
Okay, yep.
I'm gonna say positive to negative. This one's not at all familiar, which to very familiar. Strongly disagree to strongly agree. Do we want to? Does that?
Oh, it goes negative to positive. Do you want to
Well,
switch it to go?
although,
positive?
yeah, I don't know. I'm just asking a question. I noticed it and I don't know if that would change any answers. I mean, it does seem consistent, like it's less familiar to more familiar, less favorable to more favorable.
That was feedback Byron had given us, right? To go positive to negative as
I think
opposed.
Steve actually picked up on it as well.
I don't have a very
Yeah.
strong opinion on that, but
Okay.
if you guys want to change that, that's totally fine by me.
Also, so under the waste facts, it's confusing that we have the average first and then the actual third. I think it might feel a better flow to, instead of having the dollar figure up above, put that as one of those 2 bullet points. Say like, this is how much we spend, this is how much we recycle, this is how much went to the landfill. And not have that one about the average of how much we collect, because for me, my brain is confused when it says 3,600 up here and 3,170 down here. Then I start trying to do the math, but then I realize, well, one's an average and one's an actual. And so I don't think it's helpful to have both figures. I think having the dollar figure down under the facts makes sense because it's one of the facts we're listing about how it works here in town.
Yeah.
Would you get rid of one of those then?
I would get rid of the average. I
And
mean-
just do the last bullet?
Yep. I mean, 3,170 tons sounds like a lot. An average of 3,600 tons just feels like a loose figure.
And then would you move the sentence with the 250 annually, move that down and be a bullet?
I would.
Well,
That's
so-
good. Yeah.
okay, there's the collection of tons of household waste.
Yep.
Are we then subtracting the recycling from that to get to the 31?
No, because one's an average and one's a 2025 actual. So you're not allowed to do that math. I mean, or at least the math wouldn't necessarily math.
Okay, so
And it looks
I'm
like we
looking
just-
at the wording.
It's waste all around.
Collects 3,600 tons of household waste. And then 31 tons are sent to the landfill. Does that mean that there's some coming off?
It's the recycling.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, okay. So maybe we need to, is there a way we can capture how much we collected in 2025? 3,170 went to the landfill of that, whatever it was?
Okay, so in 2025, 3,600 tons of household waste was collected.
3170
sent
went.
to landfill.
Do we need
Which-
that specificity in here?
I,
I don't know.
That's just a lot of data.
Yeah.
If you look at 2025, a total of 3,612 tons was brought to the transfer station. And out of that percentage, 12% was recycled.
And that's what was in the town report?
Jolene does reports every year. It's called the recycling report, and all those numbers are in it.
Yeah.
And DES also requires that we submit an annual report, and all those numbers are in those reports.
Cool.
I would be in favor of taking out the first bullet point altogether. And instead of saying approximately in a dollar number, we just have each bullet point be 2025 specific.
Mhm.
In 2025, we spent this much, we recycled this much went to the landfill. I don't think having an average is helpful. If anything, we would want to show a trend,
Yeah.
not an average.
That is-
Well, a trend would say which is 5% more than the year prior or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it says it's increasing, but we don't illustrate the increase.
I bet you Beverly could turn that into a cute little graph.
It says in the paragraph above the facts, although these efforts have continued, the amount of waste generated by the community has remained relatively unchanged and disposal costs continue to increase. So it's just confusing where we've got the amount is unchanged, but then we've got like a 3,600 number and then a 3,100 number. It just feels like one too many pieces of information.
Vicky,
Yeah.
I think what you're trying to do is, and stop me if I'm misunderstanding, is tighten up the opening so it's shorter, so folks get to the survey faster, so you don't lose participants
Yeah.
before they get to answering the question.
That's what I'm worried.
I mean, that's definitely part of what I'm trying to do, but also I just like, if I'm presenting you with data and two of them are specific to 2025 and one is an average and the two numbers look really similar, it just, for me, it's not, it confuses more than informs.
So you're saying like Hopkins Webster 2025 household waste facts.
Yep, I just think if we're gonna have an amount of money, that should be one of the bullet points. If we're gonna have an amount of recycling, great. If we're gonna have an amount that went to landfill, great. I just think it detracts from the information by also having the average.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it again to try to move it along, but can we take that first bullet and get rid of it and replace it with the last sentence right above the bolded Hopkins and Webster household waste
Yes,
facts?
so my notes, I wrote sort of 2025, like you had said, Hopkins and Webster household facts. 2025 spend was X. 2025 collected was 3612, taken to the landfill was 3110, 12%. Or whatever, I'll figure out the tonnage, whatever that equating to 12% was recycled.
Yeah.
Okay, so the only other issues that I have here is just that half the time we're talking Hopkinton and Webster, half the time it's Hopkinton specific. And I understand that's the nature of the beast, but if we're talking about the money and we're only talking about Hopkinton, but then we're talking about the recycling and it's both towns, or the amount going to the landfill and it's both towns, again, maybe I'm just like reading too far into this, but we're not really comparing apples to apples.
But is the purpose to do that apples to apples comparison or just get feedback from the public on
Okay, you're right.
these questions?
You're right. The purpose is feedback from the public.
Yeah.
And we've talked about how to get this to Webster and engage them in this survey as well.
So should we just call it the Waste Reduction Committee and take out the Hopkinton and take out the H, because we're trying to make it a multi-town concern?
That would probably make it much easier for them to get it out.
Yeah.
To their people.
Right now, it's just Hopkinton, hasn't been approved to vote. Dual to
Well, it's redundant though, too. So there's really no need to say Hopkinton created the Hopkinton Waste Reduction Committee. It's not necessary. It just is.
Yeah, we talked about the planning board. We don't talk about the Hopkinton planning board.
Right.
So, and yeah, it is a little bit of a smoke and mirrors, but whatever.
When we do pulse surveys, how do we How do we push it out to the public?
Facebook, website, and any other mechanisms we can think of.
Okay,
Yeah, those are the two big ones. Town meeting, we had it on the town report and
Could
some of the
we-
handouts.
I know you said we want to get this out in timely manner, so maybe not with this one, but like as we move forward with these, I guess, yeah, we can always just find more channels as we firm up
Yep.
our social media policy and stuff like that.
Yep.
Can we use the e-alerts? The email alerts?
I don't,
Because we can, if we can,
oh, you mean,
depending on what you've subscribed to.
let me look and see if yeah, we did, like Karen's doing a survey right now for the master plan.
Yeah.
And we hit an email notification on that. I don't think
It didn't go out to me.
Oh.
I've subscribed to everything.
I'll have to look and see. Maybe she didn't.
I'd be
touch it.
curious to know.
You didn't get that survey?
No,
I
Well,
can-
it's
Not
got
via-
some weighted language.
not via email, not via email
Okay.
notification.
Okay,
I'd be interested to see what would trigger that notification.
I'll look and see if we can make that happen.
I'm excited to see people's responses to question 6. I think that'll be some of the most like helpful in helping push forward some actionable things to do.
Question 6 is, what do people want to learn more about?
Yeah.
Okay, so we will do a quick revamp of this. Do you want to see it again, or you feel pretty good, confident with our ability to?
We've gone through it.
I personally don't want to see it again, but
You can send.
Until you receive it via email.
Results. I don't need to see it again until we get to results.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Karen. Thank you to, I assume, Beverly, who will build it, Google form.
Yeah, we've got a couple of other surveys queuing up, so it'll be exciting to get this one out.
All right, public forum. Anyone from the public would like to speak.
Evening, everybody. Lauren Clement, 86 Maple Street. Hopefully I don't sound like Darth Vader on this. Sometimes I do when I play it back. I guess since we were on the waste reduction here, I'll start with that. I'm just, you guys spent a ton of time on this. I'm not sure what you're really expecting to get back. Some of the things that have changed is the price points. I mean, if I go and whip a mattress or a couch, I think it goes in the hopper. I'm not sure about the couch, but if you collected X amount of fees, then it kind of covered the tipping fee, and you're not negating any of that in any of this information. You're not pulling out what weight went in, and there's a lot more, to, I guess I'm confused from listening from just sidebar. How is this going to change my household and what my kids, if they throw away watermelon rinds or whatnot? I'm someone that has a Naughton's dumpster at my work, so I throw my dump in, and I do travel to the dump to do recycling. So, well, I try. So, but anyways, and then I guess back to when we were discussing merging the two boards, I didn't hear, my understanding is if you're going to have a committee, the town's going to have an official town committee. There's a vote on that, and there is a charge, and I would think that Webster would need to approve that. And that's the one element that I didn't fully hear, is that, hey, Webster, if you want to join us, you should either join our terms or add whatever terms you want to it. And it seemed like you guys maybe missed that element, or maybe I missed it. Because there was discussions at a meeting that you guys had that I wasn't at.
With Webster, yes. They brought it
Gotcha.
up. They said, yes, move forward, bounce it back to us when you're ready. We said, okay.
I think they need to vote on it. I would assume, but well, however that works out. Thank you, Vicky, for your in-depth recap on the TIF discussion. That's been a thing that I've brought up at Budget Committee. I was a little curious. I guess I left my phone over there. The 1.6 million in the exit 6 and the 2.2 at the end of this year. In the annual town report, I believe it said 1 million $8,000 and change was at year end of December 31st. So when does the TIF contribution go in? Does it go in not in December? And that's why that number's actually different. Is it April 1st? Is that?
No, it's one of the numbers that goes in after the town report is produced,
Okay. So
which is very confusing. I agree, and
It-
I'm not a fan of how it's happening, but it's
I think one of the first charges, if we, as this DAB gets created, is some better transparency of what goes on with the TIF. There was discussion about dissolving the as a potential of the exit 6. However, you'd still need your advisory board because the Hart's Corner is going to still be active. So regardless,
Separate.
two boards.
oh, they would be two independent
Yeah.
boards. Okay, I was wondering about that because you said the goal of the board is to have someone that lives within the TIF and that you're in two different areas. So okay.
Yeah. Also-
So you're really going to try to create two
Not a lot.
in that area when there's no homes.
And the other one, yeah.
Although the town of Hopkinton is an owner in the other one. I don't know how that plays out.
We got that far before. Was that next member that, yeah.
I think that the Hart's Corner will be interesting to see. My recommendation totally would be to pause the spending. We didn't even come close to utilizing expenditures that compared to the contribution plus the balance that's in there. And then I think $16,000 in interest was gained on the balance too. So if you wash it out, and it was all water and sewer studies, which hopefully won't be replicated at this point because they've been done and I don't know what the results of those are. That again would be helpful information to the public, like, hey, we did water and sewers.
On the website.
It is in the TIF website.
The planning department's
Planning,
website,
yeah.
I believe, yeah.
So TIF needs its own,
Mhm.
maybe. Yeah, I guess I am curious. I'm interested in this, but I don't think I could stretch myself to the extent to be a board member.
Never say never.
Yeah, right. Oh, I know. If
Seemed very interested.
if the pause button got hit, I would be in favor of this. I would hate to see exit 6 being on Maple Street, sprawl down to the Kentucky Village and be called exit 6. It to me just doesn't make sense. However, encompassing the waste water treatment center, so proceeds out of that could be spent to there. I would like to see that. If all this money, if this was dissolved and all the money was returned, I'm assuming it doesn't all go to the town. Probably 70% goes to the school and 30 goes to the town. No. How's that function work?
Because the,
We raise and appropriate for them and they get everything that's how they described it to us at Central Regional Planning.
they give us a number of what they need to operate. Here's my bottom line, right? And then we take our valuation. Our valuation is determined after we take the TIF out. So it actually changes their tax rate slightly, which is just used to raise that bottom line that they need. So they're getting the same money regardless. It's how it's distributed across the tax rate. It's tax dollars collected. Does that make sense?
I lost a little bit. If we have 1.6 million, 2.2 by the end of this year, and the townspeople said, yep, let's dissolve it, where's that money go? If you're appropriating funds from taxation, and I do understand how it's collected, it was the pause and then beyond,
It would go in the unassigned fund balance.
specifically to the town only?
Be appropriated. Yeah, well, the school district doesn't have an unassigned fund balance. They have a contingency fund or other statutory things.
Oh, they most definitely have unassigned fund balance.
But I think it's
That's how the addition is built on the school.
right.
It's not their percent. They don't get any money from that. Nor does the county, nor does state education.
what doesn't go into swept or either.
Nothing, because.
We pay our
because-
SWIFT and then this is on top of all of that.
That was already taken care of on all those years. The obligation was already met on
Yeah,
swept.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's probably a better way.
So again,
That's a great way to put it.
the tax rate is based on funds to be raised divided by the valuation. We use that same valuation for county, town, state, what's the other one? School. Whether that goes up or down, all that changes is the little tax rate, the portion of the tax rate, the full tax rate. It does not change the amount of money to be raised. So we're basically changing the tax rate, individual tax rates to meet that valuation divisor. That makes sense.
So by pushing the pause button on that, then by default, our tax rate goes back down that
The difference.
$600,000
Small amount.
contribution. Weren't you saying that's kind of like a wave where this is kind of a special account? I guess I'd be in favor of any reduction on the tax rate. I'm not, it's not a joke. I'm all in favor of, and so if we paused it and it came down whatever percent, $600,000, I mean, we have people screaming about, can we fix the roads? Can we, it should, I'm all in favor of pausing it. And since we have to form these committees, trying to form it and giving it, anyone that is passionate about it, let's speak up. I mean, clearly you'd have a meeting and people like myself could go and give input like I am right here, I would hope. I think that's the best steps forward. And then we can bring discussions up to 2026 from 2018 and weigh all the pros and the cons as you kind of went over as an independent individual, but here's your committee and here's our recommendation. This is where we're at. And they too could do a pulse survey
True.
and get some feedback from the town. But as far as the TIF in that developing up there, I myself living in that general area, don't see it happening. So I think I would potentially be in favor of, if those funds all got recaptured and went to the town, having them spent on maybe specifically on infrastructure.
Right.
That was kind of the intent in my mind, was to put it to infrastructure and kind of earmark it so it doesn't just fall in the general fund, but helps. I know Alyssa was saying, pay down the bonds, but maybe a flip side to that is like pad the CIP or, up these maintenance funds.
I did run a fake tax breakdown had we zero TIF money. The town tax rate would come down by 10 cents. The county would come down by 3 cents. The school would come down by about 26 cents and state ed would come down by a penny. So the total was 45 cents.
To me, that's considerable.
Yeah.
Very considerable.
yeah.
And I think taxpayers would appreciate that relief right now.
So the overall tax rate would drop from 23.35. I'm using 2025 numbers
Yep.
to 22.93.
Oh, shoot.
That's good input to be
That is
included
significant.
out. It is significant.
Yeah.
So to me, the pause sounds like an appropriate manner this year. And if by chance the select board can't come to a concurrence or wrap their head around it, you might find a petition warrant article to do this. But it would be better to not do it that way. So thank you for all the updates on that. And I don't know how often they would meet, but I have interest in attending meetings there with the TIF anyways, for at least exit 6. And I do kind of hover near it. Back to the grant discussion that Beverly was discussing.
The northern borders.
Yeah, I was kind of a little and I guess it kind of plays into the sidewalks. I want to say in '08, that's when we bought our home. The engineering firm that was in the oddities building, I believe it was.
Rovan and Thorper.
There you go. Thank you. The town spent money on safe pathways to school, and because Dan's running into so much trouble on Maple Street, I'm sitting there thinking, Cedar Street needs to be ripped up, a complete rebuild. There is partial sidewalks crumbling that need attention. Water lines could be put in a sidewalk, so if you had to address them, you're not ripping up the road. The Kentucky Village Precinct needs to rip up services like mine to confirm whether there is lead or not, damaging the road further at some point in the near future. When that was going on, there were some large trees that residents didn't want taken down as part of the sidewalk, what would be required to put a sidewalk through there. There also has been quite a few changes of home ownership on Cedar Street. And if children could get diverted from the center up Cedar Street, they would then presumably not have to cross Maple Street yet again and could get into Maple Street School. However, you probably wouldn't capture the children that are over by the oddities and out that way because they're not going to come across to Cedar Street. But kids coming up from Amesbury that get crossed in the center, they could get shot up Cedar Street. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, $32K to do a study to hope that the state gives us money. If we gave Dan $32,000 to build sidewalks up Cedar Street that needs to get ripped up anyways, and we could work on some of the water rebuild, reconstruction in conjunction with that, could we not get a safe path up Cedar Street, at least out of Kentucky Village to Maple Street School, and get one thing that has been a goal for 20 something years checked off the list? So I would be more in favor of taking the bird in the hand of $32,000 than doing a big study and getting this potentially tackled. It shouldn't be that hard to walk up Cedar Street and say, hey, would you be opposed to a little bit of your frontage getting given up to give nice sidewalks that the plow guys could come up and down? I don't even send my kid across the street 15 minutes before school because it's too dangerous. The people will not stop from my house, so I bring him in the truck. That's real.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And if there was a better path up Cedar Street, that would be great. And I know some kids do bike up that instead of up the front. And there's a lot of bikers that do bike the sidewalk, which is not helpful. And now you're adding e-bikes and blah, 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 blah. But I think Cedar Street really should be reconsidered. And that was part of that original study. And when Beverly was here, I don't think it was, I'm not sure how long she's been in town.
Yeah, you mean the Kentucky charrette?
Well, no, when the Provern
Ruben and Lorber, yeah.
in OA, the federal government was doing a safe walkways to school, and they would
I
put
see.
granite curbings and this and that. However, you had to do some engineering, and I believe the town appropriated funding, and it did go up Cedar Street, I do believe, or that was one route, and people that had mature trees didn't want to lose them, and there was enough not connecting the dots to be able to not do it.
I see.
Where
Now a lot of
now
folks have
those folks aren't there and the trees have passed their prime and are not there.
Sure.
I don't believe. So
Sure.
it might be worth revisiting
Good idea.
with 32K instead of a hope and a dream. We potentially could have sidewalks that you could put water lines, and I don't believe I think you put water on one side and sewer on the other. I think they give them separate, but food for thought there. That was where my brain was going, because Dan said he did all the sidewalks on Kearsarge Ave himself. He would do the ones on Maple, but can't get the green light. And I do know where the catch basins are because I shovel them out after the snow, so the water goes in them. And there's also potentially some telephone poles that could be a contributing problem there. I just know. So that was my 2 cents on that. Back to the lagoon and sledge removal. I guess my first note on there is I look at these agendas every time they come out, and I wished under the purchasing policy waiver, it said that what that was in regards to,
Okay.
because it wasn't very clear to me that that had anything to do with this $200,000 item that we had discussed, or that was discussed the previous day, and I probably would have tried to sneak in here a little earlier. I certainly can rewatch it. It'll be on YouTube, but there was discussion that there was memos that went out. Are those public memos? Or are they not public memos? I would have liked to, but we have talked about having a public folder for information, but it's more legwork
Let me share those with you.
and power. I would have liked to have been able to see that in a folder. Again, this is one of those things for, obviously I follow along because I'm on the budget committee, but I'm a utilizer of the sewer as well. So just, to authorize 200K of money that we don't have, I still am unclear of where that's coming about. Sound like out of the CIP. And when I was looking up the TIF, I want to say that there is a septic budget with like $4,000 in it. Independent, maybe it's a trust fund.
Oh.
So maybe
Sewer
if
fund?
we were going to specifically bid out for the curtains and aerators in 15 years, if we were dropping 1/15 of that in every year into the trust, so it doesn't get put anywhere else because it's already established, an estimate of, we'll know what what they cost to replace when we get there. But maybe that would be an idea.
Yeah, break it up
instead-
for 15 parts.
and put it into the trust instead of, I don't know, if we dissolve this TIF, maybe that funds that trust or something. And then I guess the last thing that I was a little unclear on is it was brought up about, oh, we potentially could use sand. You guys, it seemed like authorized on the fly because here we are. It makes most sense to replace these things for 200,000 and pull it out of somewhere in the CIP and do some jockeying, which our hands are tied. And I think once you're cleaning it out, it does make sense. And there's a potential of it getting broken because it's already damaged. But you never covered, okay, if we have to put sand, is that another $60,000? Where do we get the sand? Foster's Sand and Gravel definitely has Presby septic sand on hand. I don't know if that's the same quality, coarseness and not fineness sand, but we're still sitting here where we could scrape this thing open and have
Cost more and more.
we don't even know, and we haven't, and no one knows where that sand needs to be sourced, and maybe it could.
Quickly, because Beverly did say during her presentation that the cost of the sand would be negligible. It's the liner they're concerned about. Just so you know, as you were talking about the sand, I was like, she distinctly said the cost of the sand would be negligible.
Well,
It's the liner underneath they're worried about.
I don't know how they inspect a liner under sand either.
It's if the sand has moved and the liner is exposed, is what she said, then there is concern.
That's interesting. So you dredge down and hope not to dredge beyond the 6 inches, 8 inches of sand and poke
The
a.
sand might have migrated, is what Dave said, over time. And
Would,
so the sand would have naturally migrated, and that's what they're checking for. Because it popped out to me as me being like, I don't fully understand the sand liner situation. And when asked about the cost of the liner, they don't have an estimate yet.
I guess I'm just curious if it would at all be beneficial to our new aerators and this and that, if maybe a sprinkling of new sand went on there or whatnot. We're looking at longevity here. If that's the next layer in between the liner, and some sand should be added to make it cleaner and easier for the next dredging.
While it's open.
Yeah, while we're there,
I mean, I got the sense that there's obviously a bunch of stuff they don't know, but I don't know how much they want to speculate until they actually know what the conditions are like down there.
so what happens if so are they doing one at a time? It sounded like,
It did
so
sound like
one
that.
offline because he's got the capability to isolate one or the other, which sounds like they went over and above there and that's coming in handy.
Yes.
So we can still use our facilities. But, okay, so how do you make a decision on that on the fly like that above and beyond if the
Yeah.
aerators are broke?
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think they have only so much money they can spend toward it, and if they are out of money, then I think they're gonna have to come back and give us an update. Try to figure that out.
Interesting. It seems like we needed more information about how one of these lagoons, that's the right term, right?
Mhm,
Not
yeah.
cesspool lagoons is dredged from, I mean, other towns and all over the place must do this. Like, we need a little more input. But I guess that's a moving forward note.
We also seem to be unique in our lack of maintenance. That seems to be surprising everyone as we move.
Well, and this could be a maintenance thing, by adding
Mhm.
more sand. Do you not do it while you're there? If you're gonna fix the aerators and a curtain, do you not throw sand? Seems like relatively not a huge additional multi-thousand-dollar expense, but maybe worth the longevity of our brand new $200,000 aerators and curtain. I don't know. I don't know it. The first thing about these things, but that's a question I would like to know the answer to, and I would have asked. So, all right.
We'll ask Dan.
Yeah. I mean, and certainly if we could get it right locally, then can we have some sand on hand?
Yeah.
That fits that's appropriate for that. If we have it right here in town and it's only, I don't know, at this point, I say only very gingerly, but say $5,000. And if we have to go back in there and it saves us from not getting into that liner. I mean, what's the life expectancy of the liner? Do we know that? You said this is 40 something years old.
You said 15 years?
For the
No,
line.
save it the line.
Oh, that was a baffle curtain. I'm sorry.
But that liner must have a shelf life, I would assume.
Sure it does, yeah.
And are we going to be revisiting that? Oh, great, we got all this done and oh, now the liner's not working.
Mhm.
I don't know. And maybe it's just one of those things. If it's good, you don't touch it. I don't know.
I mean, right? I can't imagine
Seems like-
following like an earthquake, like what would harm it, but I guess there might be animals down there.
Our liner at the,
It's a very
on
healthy turtle.
our line, there's some ducks over there. Our liner at the transfer station for the
Yeah.
cap went.
Is intact.
Yeah.
It's intact.
Intact.
Oh, it's just the earthen part.
That is not.
So see, we may have a dirt thing.
Yeah.
Hey,
So I was gonna say earlier, but one of the things that I see is that we have all these things we really haven't identified maintenance plans for. And that's something that we're kind of working to identify and tie to the CIP, so.
Because there's a trust fund, for the septic, does something like that need to be tied to the CIP? Or could you contribute to that trust? How does that trust come about? I want to say on,
The
there's
sewer maintenance trust?
there's a sewer line on the, where it shows the balance of the TIF. Sewer was on the top and there was like $4,000
The TIF wouldn't
in a trust.
hold trust. It couldn't.
Where do those balances land?
The balance of the TIF or?
Yeah, in the town report. It
Oh, shit, I think Vicky's looking up.
was like 109 or something, I want to say, in the town report. So have a screenshot of it.
What balances are you talking about?
Grab my phone.
I'm wondering if it was a sewer study that was done and that was the remainder of the grant.
Vicky, it's financial information, page 105 in the 2025. It's a
Okay.
treasurer's report of other town accounts. And it says, utility fund, sewer fund, beginning balance, $4,240.76 with interest and then the ending balance, and it didn't get touched. What is the sewer fund?
I don't know.
Me neither. Might be enough to buy some sand.
Is that an enterprise fund? Is that like for the sewer user fees go into?
I doubt it, because it had
Oh,
no
yeah,
income.
No income, yeah, no.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I guess what I'm getting at is that clearly our sewer system is a huge expense and a vulnerable thing. And
You want?
I don't love the idea of throwing it into the CIP, which I've watched numerous years in a row have to get altered because another emergency comes up with the potential of throwing off our CIP, especially if voters on a year vote not to support it or whatnot. And that doesn't give a lot of security for that specific septic. And if there is a fund,
Mm-hmm.
instead of it landing in the general CIP that has a plan that can get altered, if it was in a specific fund for the sewer system, we know that when that day came to replace the aerators, we had potentially budgeted appropriately for 15 years out. And we got the funds for the aerators instead of it getting shuffled to a culvert
Mm-hmm.
or a whatever, as we've seen we've had to do,
Mhm.
because that's the thing staring us in the face. That's
Instead of the general CIP.
so, it's just my budgeting
Okay.
brain thought process. So anyhow,
Good call.
that's my, so we're unsure on that fund, but I'm sure you'll give me an update on that one. You don't know what that is, Vicky, do you?
I don't know what it is. No. No.
It's a town, it's held by the town treasurer, it's not held by the trustees.
Treasurer.
And it's for a specific purpose, whatever, so. Like you said, there's no activity, so I assume it's an old one for something, I don't know what.
It's weird. We've had a lot of activity with sewer that we're,
Right.
it's not active. So
No, I mean, it's not gaining income and we're not expending from it, so.
Yeah.
It's either it's one of those funds, I mean, there are a number of funds in here that are. Don't see any activity.
well, maybe that's something that could get moved into something so it could get utilized
Yeah.
instead of appropriating another $4,000.
Yeah.
Then we can get it.
I remember Kelly lamenting at one point how many sort of
Lingering funds. there are
lingering
in the
bank
fund.
accounts.
Ghost funds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just happened to notice that when
That was a
Doing-
fun meeting.
doing my homework on the TIF. All right, thank you all.
Thank you so much.
you.
Laura.
Have a good night.
All right, anyone online? For public forum? Raise your hand. Okay. Good. Anything other? Oh, we did. No, we didn't do that one. Oh, and board committee updates, which we so.
I don't have any.
Everything.
Summer.
Yeah, I don't have any updates.
Okay, cool. All right, we have non-public. I'm actually gonna add one for C reputation. So we will vote to go into non-public session and not conduct any business afterwards.
Wait, did you say C reputation?
I'm adding one for C reputation.
Good job, Steve.
I make them, oh, sorry. I move that we go and move into non-public session, two of them, one under little e for legal and another under little c for reputation.
Second.
All right, a roll call vote. Vicky?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Myself, yes?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. You've been with
Thank
us
you.
this whole time.